liberty and justice for all.
I'll be right back.
Everybody had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Make a motion to approve.
We'll make a motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jason.
I got a couple changes on my report. I got some questions. Yeah, we did under ATDC, she's got the housing study. ATDC didn't use housing study, truck housing. Use housing study. And then now, so they're looking for ways to help. I'm guessing that's going to be the rapid recovery.
Oh, you mean TCEDC did instead of HEDC?
What was the other one?
Yeah, and underneath that too, they're looking into ways to help. It's supposed to be the rapid recovery, not the quality. That's one change I have.
Any other changes or additions? We have a motion to approve with the changes. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carried. We have the bills. Anybody have a chance to look at the bills? We have a motion to approve.
So moved.
I'll make the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jason. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Do you have one additional one?
I'm assuming not. It should have been in your packet. They did have one. Yep.
One is transport. Would anybody like to make an entertain a motion that states that the office the authority to review the month going for no one to send out after, but
One more time?
make a motion to approve the bill, or the shut-offs,
Son of a biscuit.
approve the shut-offs, and then they'll send out the list after. What it does, it's the, in reality, the end date was the 10th of
I'm okay with that.
Jason makes a motion, is there a second?
A second.
Second by Nicole. Any other discussion? Paul?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Any other? Motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we have citizens that would like to address the commission that are not on the agenda.
I'll make this kind of quick, I guess. I don't have anything too much. I was just going to kind of give you guys an update on the fire hall project. It's been going pretty well, fairly on schedule, plus minus 2 weeks, I suppose, like any build project. We had a lot of frost this spring that took a long time to get all the floor inside, but now that we got that done, the concrete inside's been poured, most garage doors are on, obviously the shell of the building's up, windows are in, looks like a building. They're working on gonna be forming up for concrete outside, probably 95% of the parking lot should be poured this week perhaps. The rest of the garage doors should go in this week, and then they are currently putting up interior walls as well. And I would try not to end it this week, but into next week we should have that all done with as well. So along with that, electrical, HVAC, plumbing, wherever they can do something, they're doing it. So, yeah, it's coming together nicely. I guess they want to get the concrete poured, so obviously just keep it clean, and then just job trailers coming in, and then that way they get the landscaping done with. Retention pond's been done. For the most part, it's got a little bit of exterior landscaping to be done, but looks nice. Yeah, I guess the biggest thing is whenever the city can acquire their electrical box that they are struggling, they got sold, but or whatever happened there. But yeah, I think they're working through that, so it's not no end all to the project there. So I guess I just want to give you the update to see if you have any questions on it, or if you guys are wanting in the next month or so, we'll go do a tour through there and how that looks like something. Any questions or concerns with anything going on with it? Perfect. And then one other thing I had, nothing there, I talked to Jason some about fireworks this year. I guess I was just going to request, I think last year you guys did 2,000, and I guess I just request the same if you're willing.
There's second.
Second?
Moved by Paul, second by Nicole. Any other discussion? Nicole?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Perfect. And that'll be the second this year, just with the fourth being on the weekend, and trying to capitalize on many people at the weekend there, so. Last year being on third worked out really well, so we're hoping just moving one more day to be about the same.
Second, you said?
Yeah. Perfect. Oh, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Commissioners reports. Do you guys want to hold off on commissioners reports and go through some of the new business first?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, we can do that.
And the officers, so we'll start with new business, start with Steve, with Ron Associates on the housing study.
Hold on.
Sounds fun.
Thank you. Well, President Levi, Reese, and members of the commission, my name is Steve Burrian, Burrian Associates, and I'm usually preceded by Jim Murphy, and I don't know why, if our wires got crossed or what, but obviously Jim's not here, so I'll have to be the introducer and give the presentation this evening. I was telling Levi when I got here that I went to Patton a week and a half ago for their first meeting of the month, and they decided to move theirs, and so this is better that at least everybody's here. So good. The Trail County, with everything that you have going on, along with Trail County Housing Authority, decided that moving forward with the housing study was in the best interest of the county you put out a request for proposals, and Burry and Associates in association with Practice Strategy Group was selected to complete the work. And I have a relatively lengthy presentation that we've given to the steering committee, but we have a briefer one that I'll just give to buzz through tonight. If you have any questions, feel free to interrupt. I'd rather answer them as we go than wait. As we look at the effort, there's quite a bit of public domain information available on housing and housing-related activities if you know how to mine it and you know how to analyze it. And that was a big part of this presentation, or this study. But we were also supported by a steering committee throughout the effort. We were supported by a survey that we did, and we had almost 400 responses to that. And for a survey like this, or for a study like this, that's very significant. Now, I'll caution you that the survey recipients were self-selected. We put it out there in a variety of media, but they got to decide whether they want to respond or not, which eliminates its statistical significance, but we did get a lot of good input throughout the county nonetheless. We also did some specific interviews, and then we did some interviews on some infrastructure aspects as well. So we feel a really good cross-section throughout the county. And then we're making probably 9 presentations of the final product to the county, to the cities, to the economic development corporations, and then we're going to wrap up. I think we have a joint meeting coming up here in the near future, so some of you may be at that as well. In terms of the summary, we have some key takeaways that we put together that I summarized in a few graphics, and then from that we've suggested some housing development targets for Trail County and Hillsboro. We have an action framework that goes along with that, and then just some brief conclusions and recommended next steps. In terms of jumping right into the first 5 takeaways that we had, a lot of this came from the survey, but housing was identified as a very critical policy issue, and almost universally people support growth in the county. Oftentimes when you ask questions like this in a survey, you'll get kind of a broad cross-section of responses, and you got to kind of dig in and see where people really lie. In this case, we had an overwhelming response in terms of housing being critical, and an overwhelming response in terms of wanting to see growth in the county. Now again, with that self-selection, they may have been the ones that are interested in that type of thing, but that was a major response. If we look at housing prices in the county, we observed as a takeaway that housing prices are increasing. In fact, you had the single most highest increase from year over year in Trail County of all the counties in North Dakota in the last year, but they do remain different than or below your linked metro areas that I'll get to in item 4. The city of Grand Forks and Fargo are not seen as high a growth rate as you, but they still do have housing costs that are quite a bit above yours. We look closely at economic development within Trail County, and you've seen a lot of new jobs in Trail County. A lot of them tend to be in the ag sector. If we compare your ag statistics, ag employment to the nation, and if one is 100%, you're at like 29, indicating that you're 9 times more apt to have an agricultural growth job in North Dakota than the nation. And when you look at that, it's been a very significant number of job increases as well. And I suppose as you look at some of the major employers in the county, that tends to make sense. You've also seen a major jump in manufacturing. Yes, sir.
When you say agricultural, is that people working on the farm?
No, that would be included, but it would be like Anchor and, some of those types of things as well.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And then we've also seen a really big jump in manufacturing, and that one isn't typical of North Dakota counties. Some of the economic development efforts that have been made in Trail County have led to a real significant jump. You were below the national. At that one, you were probably at 0.8 before. Now you're probably at 1.2. So you're higher than the national average when it comes to manufacturing jobs. And if we look at the number of jobs, you've seen a very significant jump. One of the places to watch is we have seen a decrease in the amount of healthcare employees in Trail County. We're not sure with the way that healthcare is ebbing and flowing. There are a lot of
nurses, a lot of nurse practitioners that will be on a rotational basis coming in from elsewhere, and those don't always get picked up as classic jobs in Trail County. So whether the markets remain relatively flat and it's just a different way that they're employing, or whether the market has changed quite a bit, is something to watch, because that's a really important dynamic for a sustainable county and its city, and it also has very high-paying jobs going along with it. As you'd expect, a very strong connection to both Grand Forks and Fargo from all the analysis that was done. If people move to Trail County, there's an enormous chance that they're going to come either from Fargo or Grand Forks. And similarly, if somebody moves out of Trail County, the two biggest destinations in addition to the Twin Cities are going to be Grand Forks and Fargo as well. And you see a lot of commuting both ways in terms of that connection. And then as we look to the future, the people that make the projections feel that not only have you had strong job growth historically, but they project very strong job growth moving forward as well. I did grab just a support slide for each of the five. In this particular one, I looked at housing costs. So you can see that the average house on a median basis, for that midpoint, is about $212,000. On an average, it's a little bit higher at $230,000. And you can see then how that spreads across the county. And I thought this data was kind of interesting. Very few homes under $100,000. That makes sense that that group is probably getting to the point where there's not much value left. When you look at from like about 150 up to 300, that's where the majority of your homes are found. And then for those homes over 300,000, very few homes being sold in that size range across the county. There were 86 arm's length transactions in the last year, which is a pretty low number for a county of this size. The next 6 takeaways that were made is that whether it's apartments, whether it's single-family homes, whether it's townhomes, whether it's senior living, without question, there is insufficient housing, and it is limiting growth in Trail County. So I think the fact that you did a housing study definitely makes sense. As number 7 indicates, there's a significant need for additional housing across all different demographics. And so any housing that you can put forth in the community is going to be important moving forward. One of the things that's really interesting is that the county median income and family incomes are sufficient to support growth. So one of the things that you often find in a rural county is you'll have that lower cost of housing, which yours isn't that low, but it is lower than those metro areas. But you also find a pretty significant lower level of family and household incomes. So as a result, if you had to have higher costs, they couldn't be supported. In your case, your median family income and family housing incomes are higher than both Grand Forks County and Cass County, statistically. And so if you look at a typical 3 times multiplier, and you look at the fact that your average income is almost $100,000 a year, that would suggest that those homes in that 300, 400,000 plus would be something that could definitely be some more supported by this particular county, but for whatever reason those aren't being built at the pace you think they may be. The other thing that we learned, and this is an interesting one, is despite number 8, there is a wide gap between the housing values and what people feel the cost of new housing should be. And so when we look at the survey, housing is way too expensive. We can't find a $200,000 house. On and on and on. We're anecdotal evidence that people feel that the housing is too expensive in Trail County. And we actually feel that's probably one of the more significant things that needs to be addressed, and it's more of a soft item than it is a hard one. And then on the lower end, there still is quite a bit of poverty in Trail County, despite those significant numbers on average. And so as the Housing Authority is involved and they have some resources available to invest in Trail County, there is still a pretty significant need for income-restricted rentals. Typically, that comes from single-family-led houses or single-parent-led houses, and the data suggests that female single-led or single-parent households are the ones that would most likely have a poverty situation along with the seniors on fixed income. If we look at some of that data that I suggested, just so you believe me, this is the household income for the United States, North Dakota, Cass and Grand Forks County, and then York County in orange. And you can see they have the highest household income of any of those data points. When we move to family income, the data stays the same, although it all jumps up a little bit. When we go to married couple, family income, you're only exceeded by a couple $1,000 there by Cass. Otherwise, you still are one of the highest counties in the state in terms of that income, which would support the ability to build more expensive houses. If we look at our last 15 takeaways then, we did find that there are some communities within Trail County that have construction ready and a few vacant lots. So it's not as if there hasn't been effort to get ready for this type of thing. But there again, they don't always seem to sell, and I'll get to that in a minute. We also, in our infrastructure assessment, found that there's generally sufficient infrastructure to support land development. And what about that? What do I mean by that? When you look at the bigger items, is there sufficient water supply in aggregate? Are the lagoons big enough to handle future growth? Are the highway systems adequate to handle more transportation? Is there sufficient electricity, natural gas, broadband? All of those global things appear that they won't be the limiting factors for growth in Trail County. Obviously, if you go to build a new subdivision, you're going to have to do those local extensions. The local extensions can get to be pretty expensive, but even from the lift station standpoint, we didn't have a lot of people giving us feedback that some of the low-hanging fruit would need a new lift station if we were to expand in some of those areas. But going along with number 11 then is 13, where the cost of new housing is a deterrent to new construction in Trail County. So you have these shovel-ready lots, you have the income, but given interest rates, given the lack of contractors that you have in the region, as well as some of the costs that have gone up precipitatively over time, if somebody looks to make an investment in a single-family home or a townhome, it is hard to pencil that out. And so that's one of the challenges we're seeing across the state of North Dakota. If we look at apartments, which are one of the most significantly identified housing needs in the county, it's our opinion that you'll likely have to have some type of interjection of public-private partnership or public involvement in that in order to sufficiently or successfully have an apartment accomplished. And there are places across the state that are figuring out ways to make that happen. And then to your credit, just so nobody feels like they are being criticized, we did a similar study in Cavalier County and several other places across the state. In Cavalier County, that's where Langdon is. Surprisingly, even with Langdon being so distant from a lot of the development in North Dakota, major housing shortages in Langdon, North Dakota. However, when you look at Cavalier County, we could recommend some new ideas to them that really wouldn't be new ideas in Trail County. A lot of the things have been tried a little bit here and there, and you have a pretty good smorgasbord of things to choose from a housing standpoint. Problem is that some of them have had varying levels of success, and then some of them have had various levels of frustration, which is something that's been a headwind for the county in terms of housing. I wanted to just, from a poverty standpoint, just to show that data. Typically, we talked about how you can afford 3 times your annual income in terms of your housing costs. Conversely, if you spend more than 30 or up 35 or more than 35% on housing, that's typically a cost burden slice of the population. And in Trail County, you can see that you take the 30 to 35 and the 35 and over, it represents about 35% of the population. So you have kind of that group that can afford to do some pretty significant things, and then you have a group where whatever you do, you're going to have to be conscious of cost as you do it. As we switch gears then to what the major themes were that we came up from the housing study, we do feel that increasing housing supply should be a major economic development initiative in Trail County moving forward for you to continue to be successful. In terms of looking at the major themes, we do feel it is a supply constraint issue. And so there simply just isn't enough housing being built to meet the needs. There does appear to be income and economic growth to support the new housing, but as I noted, the perceptions are that things are still too expensive, and so that disconnect is something that you'll have to work through. When we look at some of the key strategic levers for housing, workforce housing is one that you could definitely focus on. Student housing, and then senior housing is always a good one. If you can get the affordable senior houses, one level, couple bedrooms and a couple garage stalls. If they move into that, many of them are overhoused right now. And so as a result, it puts that older home that they're living in on the inventory and creates kind of a cascading effect. The same thing with new, larger homes. If you can get people to build those and move up into them, that creates a good cascading effect as well. We do feel that families are a core priority for your housing strategy as you move forward. And then the feasibility of building that housing, just those bottom line not penciling out, is going to remain a barrier until either interest rates change or creative strategies are identified. What we did then is we took all of that information and we put it into more of an action strategy. And we looked at some development targets, and we think that the various things that we recommend you target are newer single-family homes, the idea that you could move up into higher-end housing, allowing that cascading effect that I just mentioned. And then it does appear there's a high demand for townhomes, twin homes, and smaller ownership units across the county as well. Senior and age-friendly housing is another area that we recommend that you focus on. The problem there is many of the seniors want to do that. The economics of it don't work as well, so that will have to be something that has to be figured out. Workforce and soft landing, market rate rental housing is something that's very short in Trail County, and so working through that, and I think that's where apartments could definitely come in. Income restricted and voucher supported rental housing, we still do see a need for that, and you have those dollars, I think it's a couple million that the Housing Authority has that they look needing to invest. We do see a lot of commuters, and so if you could capture some of those commuters in the regional labor market, you'd have the benefit of the tax base in addition to the people working here, so we see that as a theme. And then using housing or the growth of housing as an economic growth and workforce recruitment strategy, we feel that definitely makes sense. So we gave you an action framework that we recommend that you move forward with, and I put this into 3 different buckets. One is the softer side of it, and maybe the easier side to tackle, communications and outreach, and we put some key strategies together there. The second one is economic development coordination, and then the last one is probably the more significant investment one is the public sector activation. And what we did in the study is we came up with specific ones for each of those areas, for communications and outreach, economic development and coordination, and then public sector activation. And then we recommended some things to do in the short term, some things to do in the medium term, and some things to do in the long term. And they range from things as simple as coordinating with the Trail County Housing Authority under that middle one, to make sure that they spend their $2 million in the appropriate place for available housing, all the way from an infrastructure standpoint to making sure that as you continue to grow infrastructure, that you're ready for the growth that is likely to take place within the area. Working with Mayville State is another one that we recommended right out of the gate. I know Mayville State does have an RFP out in the street right now for a new apartment building on campus that would support their students, so some of those things are already moving forward with making sure that the county supports that. And one of the biggest things is we feel that you need to have somebody thinking about housing every day when they come to work. Where you spend your time is where you're going to be successful. And I don't know, given all the different entities that we're presenting to, that it makes sense to stand up in another group in Trail County. And so given that Jim and the county tackled this the first time, and given that the county has cross-cutting representation from all of you, it may make sense to continue to push Jim and Alyssa and their staff to make sure that housing is something that they're waking up every morning, focusing on and continuing to follow the recommendations of the plan. In summary, and I just have 2 more slides, we really do feel that you're at a good spot and have quite a bit of momentum. So although you have a lot of housing need, you have done quite a few things and you've progressed somewhat down that lane. If you look at housing across the state or in the country, where healthcare maybe was one that was listed, or workforce previously, I think housing is quickly becoming probably the #1 issue in many locations. And so I think there's opportunity, whether it's Grafton or Cavalier County or Watford City and the counties out there. I think you have McKenzie County. I think you have the potential to go to the legislator if needed with some partners if different housing things are needed for the county and the cities in Trail County. And then lastly, we hope that the framework that we provides a way forward. In closing, I did get asked at one of the meetings, and I thought it was a really good question, so I'll just preemptively answer it. If there were a couple things that we recommend you doing right away, what would you recommend? And on the immediate side, one of the things that we recommend is that you initiate a quarterly vacancy rate survey for multifamily housing. That may sound like it's really simple, but the bottom line is that doesn't get reported in that public data that's available. So if somebody's going to come and build an apartment in Hillsboro, they're not going to know how many units there are here, and they're not going to know what that vacancy rate is. And if you can get somebody to spearhead collecting that information on a quarterly basis, for instance, and then watching the trend of it, that's been a tool that's been very successful in other places. And it is going to be self-reported. Again, it's going to be voluntary. Some people may not want to admit that they have a really, really low vacancy rate, so they have to watch the accuracy a little bit. But that was one thing that we thought would be a really good, simple, immediate step, and I think Jim's on that. Second one is, and I know you have this existing in Hillsboro, would be to continue to coordinate campaigns for existing shovel-ready lots to put what you already have to work for you. And then if we look at future steps, and I guess I stole my thunder here, we do feel tasking the strategic team to make housing a priority is something that you should put a lot of emphasis on. And then we do feel that that perception that you have for housing just isn't affordable in Trail County is something that you should work to overcome through communications and through just recognition that the cost of living has just plain and simply gone up. You probably used up some of your really inexpensive housing as you started to grow, and to have that luxury moving forward is probably not realistic. So with that, I know that's a lot of information. There's a lot more out there. I encourage you to go through the final report when we get it done, but I'd be glad to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Next we have Anchor Ingredients, never here to talk about the demand discussion.
I'll be driving home and you'll be listening to the radio on something.
Hello, long-time listener, first-time caller. Thanks, Steve, for your highlights on Trail County housing. I think probably me, Steve, Kyle, and Megman, we all share the same interest when it comes to Trail County. We all call Trail County home in some way, whether we're working here, living here, or both. I was fortunate to live in Hillsboro for 9 years, run some facilities in Hillsboro for the past 7 years. I've been a banker, and I've really seen, the economic scale and kind of the face of Hillsboro change year over year. I came to talk about power, maybe a multi-pronged approach. I could probably stand up here for an hour and talk about different agenda topics, good or bad. I'll just start by, I asked for the time on the agenda not to talk about power because the power conversation was new to me last week. We received a letter in the mail that said, hey, the city of Hillsboro is going to implement a demand charge starting in July, right? So it's already mid-June. We got a letter in the mail that said, hey, July, we're gonna start layering on an additional fee. What's the fee for? It's gonna pay for a $22 million infrastructure upgrade that the city of Hillsboro is internally managing pretty much on their own. Right, I can tell you, I am with Anchor Ingredients, we spend, probably $3 to $5 million CapEx year over year. That's a huge amount of money with a ton of responsibility. $22 million to independently manage the infrastructure upgrade of a community in 4 phases, to me, it seems like a lot. So, starting with the conversation case was great. Thank you for all the supporting information. We found out that last November, the thought had started that the city of Hillsboro was going to add a demand charge, right? So after last November, I spent about $1 million on a flour milling line at our west facility. If you would have told me last November, August, or September, October, hey, we're going to add a demand charge with a multiplier effect on your base power consumption, I would have moved $1 million of infrastructure somewhere else, right? So starting with the conversation, I think I take for granted Anchor's impact in Trail County a little bit. And Steve, maybe these are some fun facts for you. We've got 3 facilities in Hillsboro. We've got a facility we're going to rebuild out Manhattan. We employ currently about 50 people in Hillsboro. Of the 50, 10 of those are salaried people making at least $80,000 or more. So when you say a $100,000 income, I'm proud to say that, hey, we pay 10 of our people within Hillsboro almost that amount of money to bring home to their family on their own. So 50 people. 10 of those are salaried people. We've got 3 facilities here and 1 in Manhattan. I'm looking at my power consumption. Casey was generous enough to say, hey, what does the city of Hillsboro pay to Missouri Valley? What does Anchor get paid? And what's that kind of contribution margin, right? So looking at the $1.8 million that I'll approximately pay the city of Hillsboro for the next 5 years of power consumption, I'm looking at close to $500,000 of profit, gross profit, that I'll pay to the city of Hillsboro between our 2 biggest processing plants in town. That's $500,000 I'll pay the city of Hillsboro on top of the $50,000 of property taxes I pay annually, on top of the millions of dollars that we pay out to employee salaries. Right? We pay about $250,000 a month to 50 people that work in Hillsboro proper. So what do we do in Trail County? Now I look forward to 2030. And what does Hillsboro look like with Anchor not here in the same kind of footprint that we currently hold? You guys, I'm assuming that somewhere in this budget, this demand rate planning, just assume that Anchor is going to continue to be here and operate and grow year over year over year, right? So what does it look like if all of a sudden I start to move to Hatton, or start to move to Fargo or Grand Forks, or closer to where all of my people commute to? About half of our workforce, a third of our workforce drive into Hillsboro to work here for me. We pay them $250 to $300 a month in a fuel card so they can come here and work for me, right? They love working in Anchor. I love having them. I'll pay them as much as it costs me to get them here. So what does it look like if all of a sudden Anchor in the city of Hillsboro just can't meet somewhere in the middle, and there's more charges and more fees for less support, right? So I'm here to talk about power and the demand charge that hasn't been discussed, except for a letter that went out in the mail, but also just some basic infrastructure to support Anchor Ingredients. So we pay a ton of money, right? We pay about $50,000 a month in power consumption. Of that is about 25% gross profit margin back to the city. I can't even get a road grader to run down Bodecker Drive to pull the shoulders in on the road, right? So about 3 years ago, the city annexed my west property. Prior to that, the county would come and the county would pull the shoulders in 2 or 3 times a year when I would call them. I would add gravel to the road, and it was great. It was a great partnership. 3 years ago, the phone quit ringing. I don't know if we've had a road grader come. Last year, the city was nice enough to put a couple of loads down in the road and shore up some potholes. But I don't know if anybody's been down Bodecker Drive lately. It is almost impassable. I had to pay for engine mounts last month for someone they claimed Bodecker Drive destroyed the motor mounts in their car. And so I footed the bill to get new motor mounts so they could drive their car to work, to come and drive down Bodecker Drive. We've got semi-trucks. I've got Foltz Trucking is worried about the fairings on their brand new Kenworth trucks being ripped off, and they're getting to the point where they don't want to come and load in town. And so this just goes full circle. I'm wondering, does the city not want me to be in Hillsboro? Because if you won't maintain the one road that's kind of the main artery to my main facility that pays the majority of the city of Hillsboro bills, 2 plus 2 is usually 4. And I'm not done. So I've asked for a little bit of help. I would like a road grader, and then I can continue to spend $15,000 to $20,000 in gravel to maintain Bodecker from the main street all the way to the end. Half of the road I'm maintaining is not even mine. None of the road is mine. I need the road to be of one solid state. And then it comes to, I'm not sure when it comes to maintaining a road that's owned by the city, I'm pretty sure it comes with maintaining the ditches and mowing the right-of-ways. It should come with jetting the culverts and maintaining to make sure that water runs towards the river. None of these things are being done, right? So I blew up a lawnmower last week or 2 weeks ago mowing Bodecker because there's no lawnmower unless it's a commercial lawnmower that can do it. I pay someone an entire day to sit on a lawnmower to mow a property that's not mine. I'm sitting here asking for help, being a corporate citizen, trying to find like a path forward. I need help with Bodecker. We, as a collective, Anchor and Degelman, need some help with the demand survey that's coming, the demand charge. We need some help with mitigation. We need some direction from Missouri River or someone who can come in and help us better manage our power demand and power supply, because we need to figure out how do we not pay essentially a demand charge year over year, which at Hillsboro West, by 2030, I will be paying almost $250,000 in just demand charges alone. Right, so in 2030, with a 2% consistent growth on my book of business today, I'm looking at about $450,000 of power bill and $250,000 of demand charge. I don't know if you guys know what $250,000 does at a corporate company. That's an absolute ton of money right off my profit margin. So you guys run at a 22, 24, 25% gross profit margin on the power bill I pay you. I run at 8 to 10% on all the product that goes through my facilities in Hillsboro. So $250,000 is a new roof for my main scale elevator that needs to be replaced. It is half of the bill for Bodecker Drive that I could contribute that I will not be able to contribute. It is 1 month of salary to pay the people who work for me. It is such a huge amount of money, it's unbelievable. So I don't know how I can get some help with Bodecker, with some direction on how to better manage power and what else to do. It's just like I'm here as a corporate citizen asking for help. I don't know. I cannot keep going forward. Anchor invests millions of dollars year over year. And I can tell you that with this laid out in front of me, it doesn't make financial, economic sense to continue to do it in Hillsboro. So we're looking at, I guess the biggest disconnect between myself and this community or this group of people is 6 weeks ago, I stood in front of the Hatton City Council and they said, Everett, tell me you're coming back. And I said, yeah, we're looking to come back. And they said, we're so glad you're going to come back. We've missed you. The community wants you back. The local growers want you back. Never once in 7 years that anyone in the city of Hillsboro has said, hey, thanks for anything, right? Thanks for being here. Thanks for contributing. Thanks for being the #1 employer, #1 provider. So I don't know how we get to that point and how I be better and show up more. Like I can do that, right? I canceled a trip out of state to be here tonight because this means a lot to me. Like I need to find an end road with this group of people, and we need to come to a resolution. What is going to happen to Bodecker Drive? I can't replace motor mounts. I can't rip bearings off of semi-trucks. I can't have the traffic stop to my plant because that's when the money runs out. I need help with Bodecker. I need help with the power and the demand. And I need help with the building permit process. I put in a building permit 6 weeks ago, I believe, 4 weeks ago, to ask if I could concrete the parking lot at the Hillsboro East parking lot. Hey guys, can I add concrete to this? I haven't heard that. I don't know. Can I?
You can't, it was at the last meeting. Thought it was sent out.
No phone call, no email. The last time I assumed something, I got charged because something wasn't correct, right? I didn't know I needed to put in for a building permit, and I was fined because I wasn't notified. So if we're going to ask that a building permit be submitted for anything that is done within 2 yards of dirt being moved, we need to follow up with our our citizens and let them know, right? So like, I would love to put concrete in. I'd love to spend the $55,000, $50,000 to do that. It'd be great. I would love to have a cleaner plant. I need to hear yes, you can. I'm desperately trying to get a new dust collector put into the city of Hillsboro's downtown plant. 4, 6 weeks, engineering. I've been asked more about this dust collector I want to put in and spend money on to clean up the city of Hillsboro than I was asked to build a whole processing plant in the state of Indiana. So it's like, I'm not sure, as a corporate citizen, I want to spend $350,000 to emit less dust into the atmosphere. I've given prints, I've given structural design for the concrete, and questions just keep on coming that is above everybody's pay grade in this county or this room or this group of people, including mine. So when I asked the city of Hatton, hey guys, what do I need to build my plant here? They handed me a 2-pager, a building permit that fill out what your plant is going to look like on this piece of paper. We trust you. That was their line. We trust you. I should have made the newspaper. We trust you to make the right decision, Everett. You're damn right, right? Like, we want the best for ourselves. We want the best for the community. We want the best for the employees. If I can't spend $350,000 to put a new dust collection system in, I'll go spend it somewhere else. You know, like, I'm running into walls everywhere I turn. And it's like, I'm trying to do the right thing. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to contribute. It's a one-way street, and the street just keeps getting longer. So whoever in this group of people can help me and collectively get together and work on power, demand charges, how we're going to fix Bodecker, how we're going to get some building permits pushed across, it would be great. Because I'm looking at 2030, and the $250,000 of demand charges in the barrel, like locked and loaded for me to figure out how I'm going to pay it. On top of the $500,000 of power I'm going to pay to run the plants in town. And thinking, why? Like, why do I keep doing this? Year over year over year. Argument, fight after fight. So that's all I have. I greatly appreciate your time here tonight. Steve, thank you so much. Trail County does need some help. Yeah, that's all I got. Thank you.
Questions or anything? Whose responsibility is it? It is, my understanding it is our responsibility. If you remember, 2 years ago, 2 years ago, we looked at it, tried to figure out what we could do. It's close to $1 million project to fix Bodecker Drive to what it needs to be. We can keep putting gravel on it, but ultimately that road was not designed for the amount of truck traffic that's on there. We reached out to, if you remember, we reached out to the Commerce Department, we reached out to MPT, we reached out to the Ag Commission's office to try to get help to pay for that, and we were denied on all of it. And there's nothing currently out in the back. We have it ready on the shelf to go as soon as we can find some funds for it. But it was 1.25 to completely tear it out, put the fabric down, and it is even pay it to make sure when it's completely done that it is fixed up to what it needs to be.
So the problem is, it doesn't cost really any money to run the road here. So now it's almost July.
Our order is April, immediately when the road construction, or road.
We don't have a road grader. We ask outsiders to come in and do that and maintain the road, and Jay has, ordered the load of gravel, we haven't gotten it, and the same thing with maintaining.
I just like, you gotta understand how far fetched that is, because the maintainer turns and goes south down Bodecker Drive south.
That's not ours, that is.
Is there no chivalry left in Hillsboro where you can ask the county or the township to run north? Should I call the township to see if they can maintain the city road? And you say that we're gonna continue to add gravel. The city of Hillsboro, I can count on the number of fingers on my hand, how many loads of gravel you guys have dumped on that road in the last 5 years, 3 years since you took ownership of it. Anchor continues to pay the bill to dump load after load after load of rock and gravel into Bodecker Drive. So if I need to call a grader to maintain a city road, I can, if you approve of that. I can figure it out. I don't think that that is my responsibility.
tied in with the county grant that we do to help the residential sector, and we do that statewide.
How often is that?
Once the spring, and now fall,
We weren't
we
done
did
last,
one in the middle of the year, we should have done last year.
yeah, we didn't get done last fall, we didn't get done this spring.
There was one on, the spring was still, we ordered it in April, as soon as the road restrictions came up, for bringing that out. And that's why we kept it.
How often does it need to be played?
3 times a year, spring, summer, fall.
It'll be okay.
Maybe we can get on it, ask the county to get it done this week or next week. Very late.
Ditch? Ditch the shoulder?
I mean, right now, we mow all of the way to Bodecker, and clear way up to the hill. And we're maintaining a whole, it's just unbelievable, like,
This is the first time I'm hearing about mowing. If we need it mowed, we'll get it
I didn't know
mowed.
about it.
how do you not know that this road is yours? We push snow on it, we mow it, like, we're gonna have to jump the ditches, because the ditches don't flow water, because they're all plugged up with shit. Like, how does,
Jay, did you know any of those things?
And I think that was all blown apart before we took that building or something.
We will get on top
If
of
we
all
kept
that.
building stuff in there, that's our problem. We wanted to start that way.
So I think we should look into getting it later, a little more quickly, after that, crazy, things like we do.
We'd have to look at it like. Well, that's a lot for travel.
And then, we're gonna hook them up with the river, for that church.
We also have a contacting with the Commerce Department. They have a program for, energy efficiency, so we're trying to run that on that to see what we can do. This, I hope you guys understand, this demand charge is not something new in the electrical industry, in the power industry. This is by far common across the grade.
I know they look at the communication, the corporate system that operate here is what was missing. We got a physical letter in the mail.
And I understand that, and we will try to do better.
That's, I mean, we talked monthly about this, it's like I live in the city park. I'm just so shocked that no one can pick up the phone. I have my phone on 147. There's no call, text, email. Hey, Everett, last November, we're gonna start doing a demand charge. You might want to maybe think what this is gonna do to your business. And $500,000 is gonna electric for these cities. It's just like, we're just, like I said, we're looking for an olive branch to bridge the gap. This is not Fargo. I used to live in Fargo. I left Fargo. Right? Like, if this is gonna be Fargo, I'll leave those go. Because if you guys don't wanna, like, just make a call or have a relationship, it's just, it's insane. Like, it's not small town. They're not small town politics. It's like I'm standing like I'm in Fargo, I'm trying to operate.
Well, I'm trying to figure out where the disconnect came, because there was some, like, the school came and talked to us and asked questions about demand charges that are coming in. The hospital came, so I don't know how it got to some and it didn't get to others, and so.
Same way with the building permits, there's ads in the paper every spring about building permits. We have to have building permits, I don't know where the disconnect is there, these are wild.
The disconnect was I emailed Levi and asked if I needed a building permit for a project. That was the disconnect.
And I took responsibility, and I said I
Yep.
apologize for that.
And now I know, right? Shame on me. I read through the whole thing this spring and yeah. So yes, I understand it. The disconnect was no one could respond and say, hey, yeah, you do need a building permit for that, right? I was second. John told me right. That's the disconnect. There is no relationship or communication, contact. Just hit respond. Could have saved me a couple $100 of a fine And the day I lost the progress and everybody stopped working in Hillsboro, that's the disconnect. I'll take ownership on it, like, my fault. Going forward, I read all the rules, I understand. If I'm gonna put a shovel in the ground to move one shovel full of dirt, I should get a building permit and something like that. But it's just like, it is communication and relationship and trying to be, this is a small town, like, why not operate it that way?
Have all your current building permits been approved?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Like I said, there's no communication. I hand them in at the city hall and I don't hear back.
You just found out about one of those, or
Yeah, so yeah, I can concrete the city of, yeah, I can concrete the parking lot.
are you still waiting on one though, is that what you're saying?
I'm trying to navigate how to put a dust filter in, to mitigate, help mitigate the dust in the downtown line.
So that's the hold up on that, have you heard, or is that?
Rounds of engineering and
Planning and zoning, come on, the planning commission are asking for a few questions to make sure that it meets the specs for it.
and you can just have Matt call me if you want all the details. Like, you don't have to go straight. Like I said, small town, I'm sure it's Matt's an engineer. He's the only one that asks or know any of the questions. He has my cell phone number. He calls and texts me all the time about my west plan. Like, I'm aware of it. Like, that's what I mean.
But it's not just him. I'll tell you that. The concrete, as far as I know, that was turned in right before our last planning and zoning meeting, and it was approved. I was trying to find it at the last one. And generally, the progress is that it then gets sent out after the meeting, and Abby would send it out, so if that is the case, I will check with her.
Are they mailing them or emailing them?
I'm not sure what Abby's process is.
Usually email them,
Email them, email them, or?
usually you email if they're approved.
Do you mind, just a little bit too far out, filter here, can I get through this?
Yep.
I'm a little bit sore on there. The ball,
What's that?
can I get permission to talk to you?
Are you, yeah, you gotta get it done.
So from a diagonal perspective, we would echo a lot of things that, Everett and Chris have to. Our big thing is the notice and the time scale for it, but it's not a couple $100. It's thousands of dollars. As far as Nagelman's exposure is probably over $30,000 over and above what we traditionally pay. And we're a Canadian-based company. Our cost to manufacture is higher in the U.S., and the cost for materials is higher in the U.S., and the cost of labor is higher in the U.S. We chose Trail County as the spot to put our roots down and as the headquarters of the U.S. And we do a good stroke of business, but it ain't, we need a little bit more time and the time frame and a little bit more knowledge. Everybody in the room is learning about what this is about and the impact of it on others. And I mean, I spoke to a couple of people on the commission here leading up to this, and there's some differences of opinion on what it really meant. And we've done a lot of work to get up to speed on it. One keynote that I have is the amount of money that you're going to ask for the premium next year is about the same amount of money that I have my school fund to give for my cost of living increase to everyone in the United States that wears a Jackson t-shirt. So if that money is to be spent on members that live in the community, we've heard from somebody else that we Steve today, we have a demand problem or a demand increase that's creating a supply shortage. And if that demand goes away, you're not going to have a supply shortage of housing. And for two of the larger constituents that bring people to Hillsboro, I can testify, I came from New York and there would be no other reason for me to live in Hillsboro or in Trail County if I didn't have a job at Degler. a bigger problem to have. You wouldn't have to have, Steve come have do a survey and an impact study if you didn't have a demand zone. And to turn around and ask two of your largest constituents to pony up another 40–50% on demand from. I'm a big proponent. I want the city to have money, I want the county to have money, I want the state to have money, and I want that money used appropriately. I just think the ask is a little too big in the time frame that's been proposed, and I can't plan for that. Nicole, it's no different than when we looked to the commissioners and we were at the airport talking, and we said, oh, there's going to be this big bill and everybody has to pay 2 months rent. And just so you know, next month is your first bill. And I don't have a budget for that. Like, I'm going to have to go back to the board of directors, re-CapEx, re-budget, re-expense the rest of my year, and we're halfway through it. It's going to be another $13,000 I got to come up with. And as a $140 million company, that'd be great, but I'm not working on 26% margins. I don't have that extra cash flow to just basically burn. It's going to put us in a tough spot. And by being in a tough spot makes us think about what are we going to do. Like I'm going to be in Saskatoon next month for a strategic planning meeting with our board of directors and the Dagland family, and I need to present the next 3 years and the next 6 years of Dagland USA. And I need to re-budget, re-plan, and do a whole different mock-up if I'm going to be paying $100,000 for just my electric utility in the next 3 or 4 years.
Just your demand
on your just on the demand. It's so it makes you think our expansion plan that's going to happen in 3 years. Not that we just get done doubling, but to double Hillsboro's facility one more time per day and consume some of the space from the west. Or do I really want to do that? Because I'm not going to fill it with people. It's not going to be assembly. It's going to be more fabrication. It's going to be more building. And my highest meter is in the new expansion. And we're looking at double that to bolster our independence from having to rely on incoming or importing stuff from Canada because of tariffs. That's a today problem. Well, my tomorrow problem is apparently my utility, what that's going to be. So those are the things I'd like you guys to consider and really just let's look at the time frame. Let's take next 30 years. Let's take consultants. Let's learn about it. Let's talk about it. Let's everyone in the room understand what that actually means for Anchor's exposure, Dagland's exposure, and how we already contribute today. Like I know it's not going to be net zero for the rest of the time. Like we're gonna continue to pay a little bit more, but a little bit more is 2% like Everett said. That's what we budgeted for. A little bit more is 30 or 40%. That's a shell shock, and that's where you have guys like Everett and I that never show up to these things, and we're here today because it's a huge impact on our business, and it really affects if we're going to eat your food. And that's not a threat for me by any means. But it's a consideration when I have to relate to my constituents to the board that I report to.
So, I sympathize with you and I understand. You guys haven't been here in the meeting when we have residents coming in and complaining about charges and costs and everything else. And that demand charge that sometimes our demand charge is double what our bill is for electrical. And it's not the residents that are using the majority of electricity. And part of this chain and look over, it's not us looking at this. I mean, we brought in the experts. We brought in Missouri River, who that is their day-to-day job. We brought in engineers that's DGR, that's their day-to-day job to figure this out. Because we are trying to supply the power to you guys as well. I mean, I don't think you guys understand how much, like, if you go up another megawatt, our transformers are going to blow. And you will have no power for 6 months to a year. That's how much power we are pulling out of these. And that's why we have to try to rein in, and that's why we're putting in a $22 million project. And we are looking for funding, and we are looking for things. We are trying to figure out. what is the best option? I mean, when we looked at the rate study, I mean, they spent 6 months to a year working on it, figuring out what is the best option. And we didn't say, okay, let's put in, 5 or 10 or 15. You go look at what NODAC is paying right now, they are, demand charge is $15.66 right now in the winter and $15.68 a kilowatt in the summer.
Two things on that, Leroy. One, we should have had a conversation on how we can mitigate that and be good stewards of our infrastructure, at least between the two of us. Like, we were consulted on that. I know, I can't speak forever, but we would have done everything in our power to do that, whether it's soft starts or our timing out our starts of equipment. And the second one was, let's go back to communication. How can we not do that? And the first option we pulled the trigger was a note last week that said, hey, your next bill is going to have a premium on it. And that's where it's kind of, we agreed it's frustrating where it's like, man, I feel like we're really good stewards. We try to keep up on our property, we're mowing our yards, we're mowing the ditches, we're trying to keep up with the road. We've had our skid steer out trying to keep our section of road effort in the county, and the town does a great job as best they can. We have really bad rain events, we have erosion, like it's hard to keep up on the gravel road. I totally get it. We have truck drivers that come in with their teeth missing because the road's so rough, surely. And that's just a part of being good stewards of the community and being a part of the community. We're just asking for a little bit of, not insider knowledge here, but I should have a conversation while the study that's being done and give us an opportunity to reduce our exposure before the bill comes up next month. Like, that's where we're at today. It's the letter came out last week, and my next bill will add a surcharge on it. And I don't even know how to mitigate it, so that's why I'm asking, can we get a consultant in here, or if whoever you got in Missouri River Power Company is, they're the experts and they have all the answers, let's bring them in and talk about it, because if it's a money grab, let's call it a money grab. If it's let's reduce our infrastructure load to be better stewards of the infrastructure, Everett and I can do that. But if it's purely, they sell you power and they're forecasting you to charge us more power so they can charge you more power, I'm just being paid. And at this point, I need to consolidate the losses a little bit.
I can tell you that it is not a money grab by any way, shape, or form.
Well, let's find a way to mitigate it.
Okay.
Like
So,
I'd love to do that. We can just go out and start saying,
back in over to January. Before that. So, here's my question. If we gave you till January of 2027, but we changed, instead of the 265, is that where we're at right now?
For demand, it should be 310,
310 and 260 this winter, and next year it's going to be,
or it was, hold up a sec. Yeah, it's 230 in the winter, 310 in the summer. I'll tell you in a second.
Well, we're looking it up. You guys obviously have stores all around the country, right? Even in Goodwill County. And I've talked to you about this, Kyle, about, my biggest thing is, are we in line with what a similar plant, say in Manhattan, or wherever? I don't know if you have a similar plant, what you have here in Hillsboro, other places. What is how do we rate compared to those on the way?
In between. I mean, you're more expensive than Buffalo, you're less expensive than Apple. I think the difference is, when I look, this is the double one. I just buy my own transformer for the West plant. I bought a couple of transformers for the last couple of years, right, out of my pocket. So we had to buy a transformer for the West plant to spend $1 million for the million plant. Only to find out that we're gonna have a demand charge on that new transformer, on that new meter, all of which I can update the infrastructure, and take over coast to coast. And then I will say no to more money willingly. City of Hillsboro doesn't have to worry about a $20 million line against the city over however many years. And it's kind of a full service, like maybe the community is getting to the point where that is the next step, where the city doesn't have to have exposure on $22 million for a four-tiered electrical upgrade, and no debt to pay, out of pocket, no problem.
That won't happen because they have contracts with these new bridges. So unless they're gonna buy them out somehow.
I'm sure someone's out there will take it over and put that $22 million bill and the city bill for each year.
So what if we, what is next year?
June through August would be $6.45. Summer months, winter months, September through May would be $5.45.
Levi, can we keep the same until then, and we give us time to, for everyone to do a little more input on this? I mean, I think that's the line of thought that we're going down, and personally, today, we really appreciate that. We don't know enough about it, and what our exposures today, we've been pushing the pencil for the last 48 hours to try to figure out how many spreadsheets I send you, and I don't work good with spreadsheets to begin with, so it's me and my CFO and Everett and CFO, we're trying to figure out what our exposure is and how we recapitalize this and more profitable businesses, so it's, I think if we could put a pause on it, just to time to educate all of ourselves and get an expert in, I would appreciate that. Yeah, but I know that doesn't check all the boxes, but it gives us the luxury of time. I also know that I did give Roy some bug spray and some chicken nuggets the last time he was out with that. Would you both be okay then if the commission approved it, to say that we push it off until January of 2027, but then we have the 27 rate?
I think how about we push it off and we talk with them about it and sit down and more, like you said, help educate them, get MRES up here maybe, and so they can explain it better, because that's obviously over my head.
So here's my concern with that, is that if we offer it to you two, the two businesses, now I gotta offer it to everybody. Or if it's a set in stone, we're phoning this off for a while for you guys to get everything mitigated and understand, then by pushing all of it back another year, it pushes our total timeline back on project and everything. 'Cause this funding, this model is not meant to money grab, it's also to help with the infrastructure that's going in. So if we push this back on this, it's affecting the infrastructure. Now, we are pushing very hard with our legislators and other things for a grant, and that we are hoping to get, but we haven't issued final numbers on that, which would help with this, and maybe we can then revisit it, but there's a lot of moving parts on our side. And if we don't have solid understanding of, yes, this is where we're gonna be, I know what you're saying, Jason, but if we push it back, say, 2 years, because that's what you guys wanna do, that changes our whole timeline on.
Yeah, I'm not asking for 2 years or anything, I'm just saying how we'll give a little bit more time and actually sit down with them and explain more, work with them.
And I would be able to follow with Jason. In there, like, I'm not asking for 2 years, I'm asking to get to January 1 for every budgeting cycle, so I can actually budget for it. Like, if I need to increase my revenue and my margin to do that, to offset this bill, I need till my next budgeting cycle to do that, and I think it's gonna take that long till
that's where Everett was having some frustration on communication. And I'm not trying to be a bully or be disgruntled here, and I don't want, there is no threat, there's no confrontation here. It's a little bit of a matter of principle. Like if the baseball team can show up and ask me for $800 for new jerseys, I think they should do nothing for $800,000 is going to be a premium on your electric.
Let me say this though, but when you're part of the community, part of the communication is on you guys to what's going on with the city government.
And that's why we're here today,
I get that.
because we got our first notice. And
We've been talking about like electrical upgrades since last fall. And what Levi is saying about, hey, we can't push this out 2 years, that's Roy. How close we were to boring up these substations. And you guys are the biggest users.
For
So
sure.
if you know you're the biggest user, you should be paying attention to what electrical rates are doing in town.
Yeah, I'm more worried about the 200% steel surcharge right now. I mean, there's a lot that
Then you should have been at that meeting where they talked about the raises in that study.
The most communication I have from this team of people is from Paul and Roy. Like, I get more information out of Roy when I'm giving him chicken nuggets and bug spray when he's fixing our stuff for us. He's the best communicator I have, and he's back right up there with the wall. I'm not asking to be a pen pal, I'm just asking Everett for a phone call when something's gonna truly impact us. And I don't know about you, but a double charge and a double my bill deserves a phone call, is all I'm asking for.
Is it a double charge though?
I'm $50,000 this year, more expensive, and next year will be $30,000. My average bill is $9,000 to $10,000. Average is probably 5x that, 6x that, just for this percentage.
Okay, but the other thing that you're forgetting, when the demand charge comes in, your base electric rate goes down.
From all the spreadsheets we worked on, I'm just working off the numbers that I have today, and I'm assuming right because they came from you guys. Yeah, it's,
What you're seeing is the demand charge, correct?
The demand, yeah, that,
You're only seeing the demand charge. You're not seeing that, you know, your power right now, what you're paying is 10 cents kilowatt.
so is my offset 40%?
You are going down to 8.5 cents kilowatt.
So is that as a percentage? Because I'm going up by 30 or 40% year after year. So it's the offset and it's the exposure that we need to learn about, take the time to actually understand what the exposure is all that matters.
What are your peak use, what kind of price is peak number? Per kilowatt?
Paul, it's really hard to tell you. It's Monday through Thursday at 7 o'clock in the
No,
morning.
but what is your peak kilowatt use? What would
It
be?
was, the 66, I don't have it in front of me, this isn't just historical, so
yeah.
it's anywhere from 3 to 6, probably, depending on what meter you look at, but
Right.
it all adds up.
Here, look behind you. Okay, so here would be a historical view of Degelman. The way that you do the math for it is each meter has a multiplier, especially with commercial accounts. If they didn't, the meters would just roll over, and we would struggle to get accurate readings. So you look at the multiplier. Each day we read demand between every single billing cycle. This is just the demand number that would be the highest within the billing cycle for each of these months over the previous year. So you take your multiplier times your demand times what your rate is, and then here would be the cost per that month. What we did is we projected numbers based on what the historical data was for the last year and gave Everett and we gave these two estimates based on the history and what the future rates will be. So here would be the 2027 rates, 545 kW, 645 for those summer months, and then here's what the estimates would be based on the formula. And then going forward for the next 3 years after that.
But what's their peak kilowatt usage, peak time? How many kilowatts are they using at one time?
At one time between all the meters, or,
Well, however you figure, what's the, because that's how your kilowatts are, that's how this is figured, isn't it, by the state?
Well, I think that's good, just to, when I talked to you last week, or what I know today, they don't care about what your peak demand is, like the whole soft start thing and turning on all your stuff at one time.
I don't agree with that.
They don't care about that, it's just your usage.
that's,
And it's usage during your billing cycle. That's what I have a problem with it, because I'm trying to, I wanted to say, well, how do I mitigate that? Do I pay Ryan to come in and spend $200 grand on Ryan to put soft
I
start?
don't know if I agree with that. I don't think that's the way it's supposed to be treated.
let's double check it.
I don't think that's.
That's all part of the education process, and us learning together before we get too fired up about it. I just,
Why do you have no-
I don't know enough about it to be able to.
This is an example that I pulled off the internet. If a commercial facility, it hits its peak demand of 500 kilowatts in the highest 15 minutes interval in a month, the utility charge is $9.91 is an example, which like at ours would be $3.11. So what you do is you take that kilowatts, you take that times that amount. So if your peak is, that's why I'm asking, because if you have a peak of 60 kilowatts, that peak is now taken against this demand charge, and that's how you come up with your number. And you can't have any numbers, if you can't tell me what your peak is, in my opinion, how can you figure out what your demand charge is going to be? And I'm not saying I'm right, I'm just saying that's how I read it. I read it, when I looked at this chart, I don't know how you got the demand charge on it, because it doesn't talk about what your peak kilowatt use was. Am I wrong, Roy, or am I, are you not sure?
We pulled all those numbers off of Yukon, is what we did. We looked at every single billing cycle, and that's how Tyler is pulling the info on our billing, is pulling the highest, whatever the highest reading is on the day between the billing cycle.
But do they give you the kilowatts?
No, you have to do the math for it.
So Paul, even today, like since the day that we got that letter, and I had that conversation with you, I'm paying 2 hours, 2 times 2, paying 6 hours overtime to have people come in early to start up machines, mill, the lathe, send the message, and then an hour later, after shift starts, we start to look at the highest consumer of power. And for every hour that machine's not running, it's about $2,200 and not value-added service or loss to day limit, plus the overtime, just to like start a historical trend on our meter usage to try to mitigate this. And I didn't know all this. This is a conversation I had with you, and I took it as the gospel, and I find out it's not on the peak demand, it's on total usage. So what I've been doing for the last 10 days, 2 weeks, has been for nothing, and I've been burning $3,000-4,000 just to try to be a better steward of inventory.
I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong, but everything that I've read, that's not the way it is. I'll stand corrected if I'm wrong.
Like I said, I just
apologize
need more
for
time
that.
with some experts that can tell us what to do with all that.
Yeah, I have no problem with that.
What if we like delay this like 90 days so we can try to figure it all out? Something?
So if you were using 50 kilowatts, you know, you'd have, in this case, this round you've got 10,
Yeah,
but it would obviously be just 3 points something.
If I run it off, the way you just described, Paul, our impact is like $500.
yep.
Totally selling. I think somewhere between what's on the screen and the $500, I meet in the middle somewhere.
Yeah, this
$500
is,
is a lot to work.
when I'm seeing the numbers, it was not, like, my understanding of this, I mean, it is, we look at what it's supposed to be as whatever your peak, so if you start up and one morning you use 20 kilowatts, the next morning you use 18, then you use 12, then you use 10, you use 30, it goes up to 30. So you use 30 and it's for that whole billing period. You take 30 times $3.10.
Yep.
And then what it's meant to do is to drive down those demand charges, because our peaks that we're hitting is during the day. That's when the most usage, and that's when we see peaks. We already are doing it on mitigation on the consumer side. I mean, we did that starting 2 years ago, where we're putting in a So Missouri River controls it for us, so when they start seeing a peak, they start shutting off water heaters. Because those are gonna save on electricity, or anybody else who has off-peak heat, shut those down to bring our demand charge down. But yes, it should be your kilowatt usage times your price.
Let's put that agreed upon and see what that story looks like, and I know I would be willing to agree on that a whole lot better than what we're looking at today. I think Everett would be in the same boat too, I don't want to speak for Everett to have, but
I think we
let's
do
just
like,
understand it.
I think we do like Jason said, we'll put it on a pause here until we can agree that we're both educated on where we're at and how it's being figured. Because until you really know how truly it's being figured, you really don't know what it's gonna be. And like I said, if I'm wrong, I'll admit I'm wrong, but that's how, everything I've read, that's how it's determined, so.
Yeah, and that's, if I'm looking at $500 instead of $100,000, whole lot different conversation.
You'll give me some chicken nuggets then?
What's that?
You'll give me some chicken nuggets then?
Well, bugs spray.
Base the bug spray.
As long as boy wasn't any good, loves to play with power.
I'll move that we put this on a pause for at least 60 days, see where we're at. After 60 days, let's get some numbers, get Missouri River or somebody that can help. And I know they got people that can come in and help with that, if they can educate you. Because they came and asked me, when I was walking in the office, they happened to be coming out and they wanted to talk to me about lighting and stuff, so I'm sure that they do more than that. But I think give it to 60 days, and after 60 days, if we still don't feel that we are all on the same page as far as the cost goes, we can always extend it another 30 days or whatever. So I'll move that we, I move that we put it on a pause for the 60 days to get everybody a little more educated on this.
Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Jason, moved by Paul, to put the demand charges on for 60 days, and we'll leave the rate at where we're at. Is there any other discussion?
What day is that exactly?
It'd be, when does it go into effect, or when did it go into effect?
We weren't gonna put it on until the, July 20th bills came out.
So it'd be July 20th cutoff, so 60 days, or 2 months after that would be August 20th. So the August 20th billing cycle will go forward. Any other discussion?
Thank you, Paul, for yourself.
Yeah, thank you, Fred.
Yeah, a whole lot of time that we wasted on.
Yes.
You haven't wasted any time on this, guys.
Well, that's what we heard, we're not better constituents, because like, we could be, I don't know, whatever, but I could be more involved and more informed, and it's, and I feel bad about getting grass, but it's, I don't count all these, I don't read the newspaper, I'm an average Joe that's trying to keep 60 Indians and plant, it's just, it's a lot, and then you see $100,000 bill going down the pipeline, it's like, oh man, I didn't even know about this. It makes me look bad, so I'm embarrassed on it. I got to go tell my board and the neighborhood family, hey, I'm gonna be over budget by $100,000 and it's utilities. And I have other things that I have to work on. I have to keep people employed and I have to keep bringing in new talent and trying to get people to the area. And you have a cost of living, rate increase every year, and a lot goes into it, so it's not just, I'm not thinking about this every day of the week. I thought about it for the last 10 days after the letter, but that's the only time I've ever spent to get educated on it. So I appreciate your guys' time, and I appreciate the opportunity to bring in an expert, and I'd love to know more about it. I'd love to be a better constituent on our infrastructure too, and like I said, Paul, we've already been trying to do that for the last 10 days, and we're spending $4 extra thousand a week for every 2 weeks to try to do better students of it. But if that's for a good cause, we'll continue, but if it's not for a good cause, I got a plan for that.
Well, and it's good that you did that because you do have a little bit of winning already, can look at those numbers. Obviously you need 30 days to get an accurate picture, so I thought we keep doing that because they would probably, they could use numbers because they could actually, when they're doing that, they can say, well, see, this is how it changed. So then you can determine, well, is it worth my time to do that? So appreciate that and,
No, we can do that, and yeah, if I could ever get on Ryan's schedule and he could fix our glass booth, and we'd be set, we'd actually have an average. Guy's so darn busy, whenever you want to see that.
Any other meeting you call out?
And both in regards to the road, do you have Dave's cell phone number?
I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not trying to throw you under the bus here, but text him if you, maybe we do something to the road, or, we did a big rain event, like you say, it probably needs to be looked at as quick as possible.
Just so I have a understanding, not that I'm excited ever out of this conversation, but if someone was to find some reclaim a place, millings, to put those down as a temporary, a much more solid foundation, is that something that you could work around as far as your working the road or reclaim it?
We are working on something like that already. A box for it to come out.
So we have some resources to get some aggregate, and it's fairly reasonable. We've got the guys that are buying our dirt out back, I can trade off some dirt for some trucking. And I'm scared of it, I didn't have a contact with the city, I didn't want you guys to come out with your motor grader and take it all up after we put $50,000 of asphalt milling, you know?
And I think under my understanding, your side of the road is,
It is, but I think, and again, I could be wrong on this, but some years ago, we took the responsibility of the road going around town, and the township did that. Because that's actually a township road out there. But because they're already blading that, and Jim is the one that told me this when he was still here. But that was kind of a, I guess, more probably of a gentleman's agreement between the two, just because, they were already blading, obviously, the township out here was blading already up to the city limits, so why not just go that extra little bit and finish it? And I agree with Everett, I don't know why we can't figure out something to have them go that extra, 200 yards or whatever it might be, I don't understand that, but maybe just, that.
Well, never fails, about the time you take your kids you up for land cleanup, you show up about 20 minutes later. I do the whole thing, it's like, darn it. Should have waited another half hour. Yeah, we both know what the problem is. You guys get to it, and I'm trying to get to it, and it's everything you were saying. Communicate a little better.
Yep, we can all communicate.
All?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
And don't ever think coming to a meeting is, taking up time or anything else. That's what we're here for. We're here to listen. We always, for the 12 years that I've been on the commission, for at least the last 9, we've always listened to anybody that comes in.
Well, everything takes time and energy, and there's probably nobody in the community that takes more time and energy for the community than the people on the commission here, and, I want to say thank you. Yeah, no, thanks for hearing us.
And speaking for myself, I'm learning. I'm learning as I go here, and I learned tonight that we gotta do a better job of communicating with you, and we'll do that. We just gotta educate ourselves so that when we talk to you, we're telling you it right. And I thought I was telling you right. Go ahead.
Any other?
Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we'll go back up. You guys are okay with the city engineer reports?
All right. Well, we got 2 things on the agenda. One's the sewer assessment update for the water and sewer, and then the pool update.
We do the pool first?
Want to do the pool first?
Yeah, quick and easy.
All right. I hope so. Okay, we got, up next is Jerry Clevin, who's our structural engineer, and go-to for everything, with the plaid shirt and everything.
Standard engineering attire, gray, black, brown, and it's checker. Okay, I was asked to give a quick update on the pool. There was a lot of work and then there was no work. Like there was a large lull in the project. And that lull was really kind of reconvening after they got all the pressure testing done. But there's favorable outcome of that. And I think I've kind of maybe referenced, I know I bumped into here one day and I talked to Casey about it. But just recap on how the project got bid. We had a whole series of unit price work. the sum of which was $520,193.40. Okay. We kind of awarded that contract, but apparently you folks authorized an expenditure of up to $320,000. And that was based on some recommendations of what we thought was the likely scope of work that would have to happen after the pressure testing. So anyway, so they did the pressure testing, and it actually turned out really well. Basically all the piping was in good shape. We had, 6 linear feet of this type of piping to fix because, maybe they stepped on it wrong, who knows what. But we were able to take away several parts of the work. You do all those deducts for work we don't need to do. It brought down the projected cost to about $705.66. So round numbers, $243,000. All right? And then kind of as that process was going on, we had to redesign how we made the connections from those little metal gutter inlet things inside the gutter, and there's 22 of them. The pipe coming out of that doesn't stick out, it only sticks out like 3/4 of an inch from the backside of the concrete. We thought it would be longer, we didn't know what it would be until we excavated. So we had to redesign the connection, make it watertight, and it's a more complicated connection. So that unit price work, we have to add $10,850. As they were getting ready to start the work, and we were asked to look at doing some kind of future proofing for future water features in lieu of the wading pool. When they started digging into that work, they found some piping that was either not connected to the pipe when it was pressure tested, or there's a valve shut off or something like that, but they physically saw broken pipes. So it was a saddle and some other PVC fittings, so that had to be fixed because it would have been a source of leaking. That would add $10,995. So you take the original deduct, which work we didn't have to do, 243. Add these two other items, which are about 21,000. That would bring the project cost to $264,550 and some change. So again, we went from 320 to where we're at right now, 264,550. So we're still on a nice variance on the project. We took the bumblebee route to get there. There were a lot of twists and turns. So I've actually started drafting up the change order to bring these two other items of work in. But once that got resolved, the contractors, they're back on site. You saw the pool was full. The piping work, repair work is done. They're prepping and hopefully have started replacing the pool deck. So they're back at it. Their schedule still remains substantial completion June 31. They think they'll be done sooner. Final completion date, July 15, is unchanged. Again, they think they'll be done sooner. One of the things that had been thrown around was replacing the balance well, the little manhole thingy on the north side of the pool. That's still not yet in the contract. And they don't have time now to do it this year to stay in the project schedule. So that's other work that's been deferred. The good thing about deferment is the cost obviously can be deferred till later. The good part about that is we're not forsaking the chance to do it if we don't do it now. It's outside the pool line, they'll be able to, or somebody else at whatever time it becomes right. It's still very feasible to do that work without digging back into the pool. So if it was work that had to be done and just couldn't be done later, I probably would advocate harder to do it now, but very comfortable being feasible to do it in the future. So just again to recap, we're $264,550. There will be a reconciling change order. This is why I don't have the change order yet done, Levi, because I think at this point we pull out all the other work that we weren't going to do. I've reconciled all that by change order, so we're going to be left with the work we actually performed. But again, that construction value, 264, 550. This was part of the design, and I bring it up, you know, as we get older, I learned this phrase recently, my give a damn meter gets lower and lower. I went out on site, I don't know, maybe 2 weeks ago Monday. I didn't even have my left foot out of the driver's door, and the two pool managers got into me. And it was probably the most polite way I've ever had my judgment question. But it was just a great conversation because they just hit me right between the eyes with their thoughts. We were able to deal with it in real time. But what came out of that is they understood why we weren't replacing the balance beam. Like that was a huge win.
Why aren't you replacing?
Cost. You know, if we added it back in, we would be under the original expenditure.
I thought that was where the main leak was.
Pardon?
It is, but it isn't. I mean, there is a leak there, but after we filled the pool and let it sit, we realized that it wasn't as bad as we thought it was.
And I totally agree with that.
Where was all the water going then?
It was going, I think we were losing it in the gutters, like he said. So if this was on the top of the pool, there's an inlet or an outlet, the gutters that skim off the top. This goes and connects to a flange out here. Well, these were rotted off. So all that water was going into the sand, gravel underneath. And then that other point was between the original design, which we had since the 80s, the kiddie pool and the main pool were tied in together as one. So the drain would both go into the ballast tank, and input also came from there. And that's where where he said those big leakages was where those two tie-ins were. So that's where the ballast tank can be done in the future, like you said, and that's where we had it, you know, because we had proved to do the ballast tank, we were going to add that in a while back, but as we moved forward and started finding the other stuff, that's where we held off and found better options to do it.
And I do think that's a good phrasing of it. There are better value options for the expenditure on the project. At some point, the balance will probably get done. If that's a judge, you know, policy decision for you folks to make. But the most pertinent point I wanted to share with my meeting with the pool managers and the pool heating filled, there is still a leak. And like if I'm in your spot, I'm like, well, what the hell did we just spend the money for? And I would kind of come at it from this perspective. We know it's not the piping. Last year, we had no clue if that was the reality. We didn't know anything last year. And so kind of diagnosing the problem differentially, we've removed the piping as a consideration. I'm very comfortable with balance wells as a minor component of the leaks that we have. And the conversation with the pool managers, they then, once they understood the balance well thing, they then said, well, we better goddamn go in there and fix that seam down on the bottom. Because I think the leak's coming out of the liner. You know, and every year there's a sealant, or every other year, whatever cycle it is, there's a process in which the pool gets refinished and do some work. That work's got to get done right away. I've asked the contractors to make sure the pool's drained down, get it dried out, so that process can begin sooner rather than later. So, and this is where, again, this project is going to add a lot of information. We do the sealant work, that work gets done, pool fills back up. Let's hope there's very little leakage. It's another, like, now we know the leakage issue is now related to the basin itself. And then there are ways to patch that, fix it in place, do some other work. But again, this whole process, the value really is, we now know it's not the thing. And again, I think that's a huge place going forward. And we do have intact piping, gutter connections are made, that system's intact. So that's the outcome of the project. So hopefully I answered everybody's question. Paul, did I get your question answered about the balance well?
Well, I just remember somebody saying before that the ballast tank was the leak, so.
That's what I think that's what our managers thought it was.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, there was
we-
some conjecture there.
Right, but we were all speculating on what we were trying to figure out. And now with the pool, the pipes fixed, we'll get the liner up to par, we can now see again in what we need to move forward with, so. Every step we've made, I think, has been in a good direction. We knew there was issues with piping, well, we confirmed that there was issues with piping, now those are fixed. Next step, we know there's a leak in the steams, so those are getting addressed too, so.
So.
And on a good note, with it, we should, in the future, be able to open up the little pool again, because they ran new pipes
Correct.
to the pump house, so all we have to do is connect into those and added a sand filter, a pump, and a heater in there, and we can have that up and running again.
And the pool manager did ask me about that, about running the wading pool on the shared system with the main pool. You know, technically you're not allowed to do it. You know, but I do think if water quality tests are fine and consideration that it's kind of a system grandfathered in, I'm pretty sure we can talk to the health district and get them to buy into that.
And I did look to see, okay, what size, we don't need, the amount of water that's there is probably what it's in a larger home pool, so we should be able to have a fairly decent size, like you had said, Jay.
It would be a small sand filter system with a very small chemical feed. But I do think the health district would buy into the concept of, it's still on the same filtration and chemical system, separate piping, but it's the same chemical system, but again, you've been operating that way for years. I think it'd be okay.
Well, there's one side to it that you forget about. When something happens in the kiddie pool, we have to shut down both sides because they're sharing water, whereas
Well, that is true. If the same thing happened in the big pool, you'd have to shut it down.
yes, but most of the time, we've always had shutdowns is because of the kiddie pool, not because of the main pool.
Yes, that population is usually more prone to that sort of problem. You know, absolutely. So, but anyways, that's the update. I am working on paperwork now to catch up to finance with the project realities. Contractors working in to get to the schedule dates. And that's where the project's at.
I think I would like to have a motion for you guys to approve what he said so that we are not stopping, so that when the paperwork comes, we can get it signed and move forward, so that since we're not gonna have another meeting until July, so. Because we need to get the paperwork in to the state by the 30th or 31st, right?
Something like that.
Yeah.
And to recap then the finance, the essence of it would be financially, right, the projected final cost of the project, $264,550.66. Net changes to the contract are quite significant. Basically, the contract right now is $520,193.40. We only authorized expenditure to $320. So the basic finances reduce the project cost from $520,193.40 to a final cost of $264,550.66.
Which we will pay half of that because it's a matching 50%, so just so you guys are aware.
So what were some of the things that you didn't have, that you were gonna do that you aren't doing?
Well,
Just-
no, that's a great question. 4-inch diameter pool water supply. So the piping that brings filtered and treated water back to the pool system, that system was intact. We did have to, well, again, we talked about all the gutter inlets, the nozzle coming out of the gutter connects to the gutter return, we did all those. We did not have to fix or repair the pool gutter return pipe. So in other words, when the water goes out through the little metal drains into the PVC pipe, that PVC pipe was intact, we did not have to do that.
But you had to attach to it.
we have to attach to it.
You have to replace it.
Exactly. We did not have to do the 6-inch diameter main flow drain line from the very bottom of the pool, under the diving boards, into the balance tank well. We did not have to do that. That was $80-some thousand on its own, $82,000. We did not have to do suction return line from the pool into the treatment system again. So we didn't have to do any of that. And the balance well being omitted too. So again, to summarize it, is basically every underground pipe system was found to be intact, and that work could be omitted in the project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So the gist of it is we want Jay to do the rest of the work because he always comes in under budget, right?
Sure. Well, I have a bid opening tomorrow. My estimate's 300K over, so
Oh, boy.
talk to me tomorrow. after.
Okay.
We'll know when we get the water usage and fuel months.
You will.
That'll be the ultimate test.
It really is.
Yep.
It really is the ultimate
Yep.
kind of measure of how success of this project is in the short term.
So do I have a motion to approve the signing of the change order when it comes through? Jason makes a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Nicole. Any other discussion? John?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
A yes for me, motion
Okay,
carries. Thank you,
thanks.
Jay. Ready?
You can stay there, I'm gonna have my own chair.
You have your own chair? Okay.
Your comfortable chair.
No.
All the years I've been here, I've never got to sit up there.
You just gotta ask, yeah, you just gotta ask.
We'll remember that. Next time we'll make a new spot for you over
Do I
here.
need to bring it over here?
Yeah, everything.
I bet he gets a full arm too, yeah, okay. No worries for me, guys.
All right, I'm gonna go through this fairly quickly because I think most of you are aware of maybe the history of some of this, and then similar to how the other presentations went, like feel free to stop me on any slide and we can just kind of discuss it. But obviously on the agenda, we're talking about the sanitary sewer assessment and how that turned out, but I want to kind of go back a few years and maybe talk about some of the other assessments that were done, just so everybody on the commission is aware of things that were done. So we'll talk a little bit about the history of the evaluations, the costs, and then some next steps. And sorry, I didn't have marketing make this look any prettier, so this is just an engineer trying to put together a PowerPoint. So in the spring of 2022, there was a pavement evaluation that was completed. We had Taylor Amiot in our office. He went by throughout town, took a look at the streets. Obviously, as a commission, you know that most of the residents, they're always complaining about streets in small towns, and that really kind of kicks off the prudent thing to do, which is to look at some of the utilities that are underneath. So that evaluation was done in 2022. There was an information meeting that was held early in the spring, and then at that time there was some discussion that was looking at some of the potential costs for just improving the pavement. This is one of the maps that came from that. The nice thing about this map, and we drove it actually before this council meeting as well, is that the majority of the streets, the repair for them is to do kind of a mill and overlay. It doesn't look like there's too many street sections in town that have complete failure. Usually when you see kind of a lot of raveling and just alligator tracking, things like that, you end up thinking that there's something going on with the subbase. There's a few sections in there. You can see the ones in purple are kind of the full depth, or the ones in actually the blue are the full depth replacement. So there's a couple intersections. The purple are actually putting back a crown. So that would be milling some of the edges and then overlaying, just so you have that nice grade away from the center of the street. So that was the pavement evaluation that was done a few years ago. Then in the fall of 2024, it actually started before then, but it was completed in the fall of 24. A storm evaluation was completed, and a stormwater master plan and recommendations were provided. And so this is what the map of that looked like. It looked like there was 3 areas that our water resources group engineers recommended that a pond be built. I know that there was some conversations with the neighboring landowners to see if that was even
feasible and if they were open to that idea. And I don't know how, Steve, I know you mentioned that one of the landowners wasn't really open to that idea, but maybe some of the other two areas, the city owned, and there could be a possible end. The circles on the map there, I know it's really hard to see and it needs to be closer up, but those are areas where maybe we don't have adequately sized pipes, so that's why the water kind of, especially during a more severe rain event, the water just kind of stays in the intersection longer. As you all know, the longer the water just kind of stays on your street and doesn't have a way to get out, that's when you start having the pavement deterioration and the pavement not lasting as long as you'd want it to. So that evaluation was done in 2024. And then obviously, the last two utilities that we were looking at then, we ended up kind of completing over the winter of this year, and that is the sanitary sewer and water evaluation. We came here last fall, presenting some quotes for some sewer televising, and last fall the city authorized us to move forward with awarding to the lowest bidder there, and they worked throughout the winter to televise as much sewer pipes as they could, based on the budget that the city had given them. So the majority of the city was televised throughout the past winter, and then we created a map of the critical areas. And I'll jump into that quick to show some of the maps. What's the PDF one look like?
Hold them up.
Okay, Adobe, that's right, that's what I was looking for. Okay,
There you go.
thank you.
I think that's your first one.
Yep, so I will, let me see. I'll actually start with this one first. So I can zoom in a little bit on this one. Well, I can just use my cursor actually. So this shows all the sanitary sewer and the manholes that are in town. Everything that you see in orange there are areas that just the robot with the camera on it couldn't get past. So that usually means that joints are offset, or if there's a sewer tap coming in, the pipe is coming in too far and the robot just can't get past. What they would do is they'd set up from one side. If they couldn't get through from one side, they'd set up through the other side if there was a blockage on the other side. So you'll see a few where, they're not able to get in, a few where they just weren't able to do kind of the whole line. That could mean that it was either underwater the whole time, or they just weren't able to access the manhole, things like that. So as you can see from this map, they were able to televise the majority of the sanitary sewer system. Some of the things we found, in addition to the condition of the sanitary pipe, is there's quite a bit of brick manholes that are actually in the city of Hillsboro. There's 35 brick manholes from what they were able to see. I know that they obviously reviewed it, marked it down. We had our engineers kind of validate some of that data. One of the things they mentioned was that there was some of the manholes that had like cement mortar and trying to kind of shore up the brick, so they weren't able to tell if it was brick or if it was actually a concrete manhole. So 35 is kind of the minimum. There could be a few more, but that's something that, definitely just for structural integrity and something along those lines, we'd want to take a look at possibly replacing that, especially if it's already a pipe section that, we'd be looking at replacing.
How many are there in town?
Manholes? Oh boy, probably should have been ready for that question, huh? Well, just by looking at the map, I think it was like 117 if I recall off the list.
Just curious how many of them.
Yeah, don't write that down. I don't even know if that's right.
I'll put a question mark on it.
So more than 35 and less than 200?
Yes, less than 200. Less than 200.
So those other ones would already be concrete?
Those other ones would already be concrete, yep.
I
Kind of
assume
thin.
that, because it's hard to tell in the color, but I assume most of those 35 are in this.
Yeah, let me,
The older part of it.
yeah, let me just, so you can, if I zoom in a little bit, you can kind of see the reddish versus the green,
The red does the concrete?
The reds are the brick ones, yep. So you can kind of see where they're at. And they kind of go all over, so it's a little odd with with how it happened.
You not only get there, you're in touch with
Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine brick manholes, you don't find too many that are in great shape.
Is that like 1940s version, or is that 60s, or?
I mean, they could have put them in. I would assume with most of your pipes being, you know, vitrified clay pipe that, you know, it's probably the 40s or 50s.
Or is that old?
Yeah.
I was just joking. I was thinking it had to be
Good
doing
guess,
that.
good guess.
Look how smart you are, Paul.
Yeah.
Like a trivia.
In regards to the pipe itself, you've got about, let me see if I actually have, no, let's see which one I need to, okay, this one we can go. So the majority of the pipe is clay pipe throughout town. The way we've got this map here broken down and try to just make it so that it's a little bit easier to read. So the ones that you don't have a color, so there's 3 colors on there, the yellow, the blue, and the red. The ones that don't have any color on there are ones that we, you know, after reviewing it, they're either in decent enough shape or they're already PVC pipe. When we look at the sanitary sewer tapes, what we're looking for is sags, you know, that are maybe holding back water, offset joints, if there's excessive cracking, if there's sections of pipe that are missing, which you see quite a bit of, especially, you know, whenever the city has to maintain it or jet it, or whoever's jetting it, you know, especially if the pipe is already loose, sometimes you're actually jetting sections of your pipe through the manholes, things like that. So we looked at, you know, open cut replacement methods, which is where you're actually, you know, taking an excavator, replacing the pipe. Obviously that's costly because you have to replace the pavement above it, everything else. And then we looked at 2 trenchless methods, which is CIPP, which is cured in place piping. That's when they kind of sleeve in a sock and then pressurize it, and then it kind of takes the shape of the pipe, and it has structural integrity as well. So that's typically the cheapest option of, you know, replacing it. That can be done even if you have excessive cracking. The only thing it can't fix, obviously, and neither can the pipe bursting, is if you have a lot of sags throughout your pipe, things like that. Obviously, both the CIPP and the pipe bursting, they're following kind of the alignment of the existing pipe. So based on that, what we did when we looked at whether we could do trenchless or open cut methods is we looked at if the sags were about 25% of the pipe or more. So if, you know, almost half the pipe was underwater, then we looked at open cut methods. If it was less than that and the rest of the pipe looked like it was in decent shape, we looked at either CIPP or the pipe bursting methods. So you can see from the map here that there is actually a significant portion of it that, you know, looks like it probably should be open cut. The yellow is the pipe bursting. You know, that's when we had significant portions that were either already missing, you know, the pipe itself so that the CIPP wouldn't work, or, you know, maybe it was the pipe that was smaller, because with pipe bursting you can actually upsize it up to 2 sizes. So if we needed extra pipe size just for the capacity, then we'd do pipe bursting as well. Looking at all of this then, you know, ideally what would have happened is there would have been like one little area that would have needed the replacement, and then the rest of it, you know, do trenchless methods. It kind of just bounced all over, which, you know, we typically find in small towns, especially if there hasn't been a lot of sanitary sewer replacement done in the past. We did tie this in a little bit to the water main. There is, you know, good news with the water main. Obviously, we aren't able to necessarily do the same thing like we do with the sanitary, where we're able to televise it. But, you know, doing the hydraulic model with the water main, looking at the existing sizes that you have, the material is really the only thing that Donovan, when he was looking at it, had a concern with. It is all AC pipe, so it's asbestos cement. The nice thing about it is that unless you're having issues, you know, having consistent water main breaks in certain areas, it's really not necessary to replace it. It is nearing the end of its useful life, but that's not to say that you have to do this, now or even in the next 3 to 5 years. It would just be something where if you're already replacing the sanitary sewer and you're open cutting that area of the town, then you might as well replace it and update it with PVC pipe. So what you'll see here is there is kind of a legend of how to prioritize it, but it's really based on what the conditions of the sanitary sewer are. This area right here is kind of the main one just because it provides upsizing the pipe and a redundant water source. So that's one area that Donovan wanted to upsize if we're already going to be digging there, because this area was all red with the sanitary sewer as well.
How much of the city is the asbestos?
That it's the majority of it. The only PVC is the ones in blue here. So what you see in the light blue, kind of like this color right here, that's PVC. Everything that's got a color on it is AC pipe or cast iron. There's not a lot of cast though.
And the life expectancy of the AC is how long is that have?
It's one of those things where they say 50 to 70 years, but most of the AC systems, I don't know, it could last longer. It depends a lot on the soils, so again, the best people to kind of tell you when it's time is your maintenance crew, and are you starting to see your breaks go up and more frequent and things like that. I wouldn't say that you'd have to replace it just because it's AC pipe. It's the same thing with the clay tile, right? Like, we've reviewed enough sewer tapes where I've seen clay tile that looks really good, better than PVC in some sections. So it's not.
There's no health issue with the AC
No,
pipe as it gets
no.
old? No health concerns?
No. So now I'll jump back into actually, we'll do this one. I did originally, and Steve and I kind of talked about the best way to break it down. There is an opportunity to kind of break it down by areas, but it gets really hard because you can't really pick one area that's worse off than another. Similar with the streets, there's street sections that are kind of all over where you could kind of go and say, okay, well, this street's really bad, and you can't really just pick one area. So I did do that originally, but I don't know if we necessarily need to look at it. So I'll jump right back into this. So I did do just some pavement and utility costs, and obviously this is just high level at this point. But it does match well with what we did in Larimore a few years back, and I'm more than happy to kind of explain how that whole process went and ultimately what we ended up doing there. But I think the pavement improvements only, I took that number from what Taylor had and then just moved it up 4 years since his costs were from 2022. The sanitary sewer improvements, took a look at which areas we'd open cut, which one would be done with trenchless methods. Water improvements, not as many that I think we'd need to do, but obviously if we ended up doing all of the ones in there, that number would actually go up a little bit. And then the stormwater improvements, that was taken from what our water resources group did. So, if you're looking at just total construction costs, you're in that $25.4 million. We did the city of Larimore, this was done now 4 years ago, but that one was $14 million for just the underground. And then the city actually, they backfilled everything with just gravel. So they drove on gravel streets for 1 year while everything kind of settled. And then the pavement portion of it was done for another $8 million after that. So that one was total cost of $22 million. So it kind of, the numbers jive with what we've seen in similar sized communities, things like that.
Their number of streets is similar to ours?
They probably have a little bit less, but I think you guys have a little bit more that the county and the highway and the DOTs may be responsible for, so that we wouldn't have to touch those. And then some of the utilities, You guys actually have, kind of everything west of the highway is all new, so they hadn't done anything, so like, they had everything kind of redone, so I think the costs, even though you guys are slightly larger of a community, I think you guys have some newer infrastructure.
All their water main was upsized also.
Yeah, and we added brand new storm sewer. They had no storm sewer just because they're sandy soils over there, so we added brand new storm sewer to there. So that's kind of gets us to this point. So I don't know if anybody has any questions on that or any of the maps or anything we've talked about. Really, the next steps, now you have the information that you need to put together, a preliminary engineering report or a facility plan so that you can go look for funding. If you want to have public meetings, we've got the pictures from the sewer tapes where we can show kind of what your infrastructure looks like, so then when you have residents coming in and saying, okay, why are we even looking at it? The streets are bad. Most people, as long as the faucet turns on when they turn it, as long as their toilet flushes, they don't care about the water or the sanitary sewer, right? But the roads are something that's every day, we heard Everett talking about, the roads and over by his area. So I think that's kind of an easy one to focus on, but understanding that you don't want to invest in putting a lot of money into roads without fixing the problems.
Go back to that numbers page.
Yep.
What all would you have included in that stormwater improvements? What was all kind of your figuring on that?
So the stormwater improvements, there's quite a bit of, I'll even go to that one. So, it's building these ponds over here. The areas that you've seen red over here are upsizing of some piping. All the areas that are kind of circled in the orange are your inlets and the pipe in those intersections that needs to be upsized.
So even with the holding ponds, you're going to have to upsize that pipe?
Yeah, so because what's happening is you're being constricted by the size of the pipe. So even with the holding pond, that's going to hold it so that it can get away from the town a little bit, but you need to be able to get it there, otherwise it gets held in your streets. So
Some of it, there isn't enough great space to let the water down and even fill the pipe. The size of the grates are restricting how much water is going into the pipe.
yeah, so when they do like a study like this, they're looking at kind of the drainage area that goes to that intersection, and then they're taking a look at, okay, well, during a two-year storm event, 5-year storm event, 10-year storm event, and seeing like, okay, at what can we live with type of thing.
And there were some areas that you could just enlarge those areas, right?
Yep.
For drainage, but because the pipe panel, they just weren't big enough.
Right, yep, some of the pipes are okay in size, they just need to either add another inlet to the intersection or put like a double inlet in so you can get more water.
Which we could have did, if you guys remember back, some of it, we could have added, like we could get rid of that pond if we put an 84-inch pipe under right here.
Yes, some of the, if you got rid of all the ponding, some of the pipes needed were bigger than what would fit in the ground.
But there was one, if we can't do the one by the courthouse, there is, if we're able, we can look at this map now and say, well, we're tearing up First Avenue, or, 3rd Street. Do we then upsize that pipe, that stormwater pipe at the same time, so we're fitting into this plan? Even if we don't do it at once, it's one of those, while we have it tore up, is it cheaper to do it quickly now? Even though it might cost us $300,000 more. That's better than $2 million down the road.
And Larimore got grants for some water stuff, right?
Yep, so they did get some grants. So what Larimore had done was, at the time, they had their whole infrastructure kind of failing at the same time. So what happened was, near kind of the beginning of this project, we originally, their water treatment plant wasn't being operated correctly, and there was just a lot of issues with just the water quality. And so they reached out to the rural water system and had them take over the plant. So because the rural water system was taking over the plant, the State Water Commission gave them $2.4 million to then just kind of fix some of the water main improvements. They actually bid the project, I believe, back in 2019 with the $2.4 million in grant from the State Water Commission. And at that time, they thought they could maybe get more grants, so they ended up not awarding it then. In 2021, they rebid it. They were able to secure another $4 million in grants. The project actually ended up being about $1 million more expensive, but they had $4 million more in grants. So then they ended up awarding that one. But it was, it was a lot of meetings, not necessarily just the public meetings. That one was more so just to kind of educate and make sure that the message was being relayed of why they're doing this. The public meetings were actually the most fun because you saw a lot of residents that were lifelong, Larimore residents that wanted to see the community improve and understood that even though it might hurt a little bit in the near term, they wanted to see their kids and grandkids grow up the same way they did, and they understood that if the infrastructure doesn't improve, it was only going to get worse off. So, but there was a lot of meetings just with the infrastructure committee on how can we make this. There was a lot of meetings with our Nexus group of, what types of financing packages could we do? How do we afford this? And ultimately, even during some of those public meetings, we sent out surveys of how the community would want to pay for it, whether it be increasing utility rates, whether it be special assessments, whether it be sales tax increase. So it was looking at both the type of project and informing residents, but here's options that we have to help pay for this. It was, constantly telling the residents to reach out to the local legislators and what they can do and really make your voice heard so that you can try and, get kind of, earmark used to be a bad word, and then kind of now it's kind of coming back because there's just not enough funds for some of these smaller communities. Special assessments used to be something that small towns hated hearing, but I don't think you can afford to do a project without them, type of thing. So that's kind of the next step. So Steve and I just wanted to update the data that we've got now, and really it's up to the commission now to let us know what you guys would like to do next.
And Casey has all these maps and stuff, she can send an email with the, a copy of them to peruse.
Yeah, and I do have a tech memo that'll have that included that we're going to send out to draft for you guys to review, and then if there's anything that needs to be added, we can finalize it and get that documented as well.
Do you have any questions for Yorda?
Not right now.
The one thing that I had mentioned that maybe we could do is ask them to go back and come up with, say, 3 plans, potentially, so we can come out with maybe 3 options to start having our public meetings, so we can say, we know what the total amount is. So full, we do everything, it's 25 million. If we are only going to do the mill and overlay with fixing these certain spots, number 1 priority, what's it going to cost? And then what's the bare minimum we need to do, so that we can maybe give those 3 options to the residents. Look at, if it's, 25 million, maybe the median's going to be 15 million and the bottom's going to be 12 million. And then we can say, all right, these are the options of, this is what it's going to cost you. And then ultimately, I think we then can look at grant funding and try to find those options that we can. And then ultimately, know, say which option do you want? And which one is gonna be special assessed, because I think that's, at the end of the day, I mean, we can find grants for the stormwater, possibly the sanitary sewer, and the water, but we're not gonna find anything for streets. So that, for sure, is gonna have to be special assessed.
Do we need to do anything with lead line at that time too, lead lines, or is that, we gotta do that before we ever do anything?
Well, I think the lead lines, that one's gonna happen beforehand, just
Before this.
because that needs to be, yeah. That's happening whether you do a project or not, you know, that's already in motion, and,
We just submitted for, what was it, 1.2 million to replace the lead service lines in town, which would assist the homeowners doing the paper part of it, but we'll wait to hear back on, that was just submitted last Tuesday.
yeah. And, you know, Levi, to your point on kind of the cost, you know, the small, middle, and large project, that one is a tough one to do when you've got kind of bits and pieces, you know. I know that we looked at that in Larimore, and that was, you know, originally, nobody's looking at citywide project, right? Like, you want to take the cost down a little bit and maybe something a little bit more manageable. But what happened there was, it was impossible to kind of like choose one area, and then the way the city wanted to assess, you know, no matter if a small area or the whole city was going to be done, they were going to assess it citywide, because they understood that there was no way that a smaller portion of the residents could afford that project. And there's no way that they could convince them that if we do this area, we'll do this area next, you know. So it ended up being one of those where it's like, okay, well, at least if it's one large project, you're getting economy of scale, you're getting, you know, one bidding, you're getting one contractor that really wants it, you know, so you're getting contractors from even Montana, Minneapolis area that are coming in. So it did end up, you know, like if I look at it, the project's done now, and it was a huge project for the town the size of Larimore. But, you know, if we ran the numbers on how much it actually saved them, rather than doing 3 separate projects, you know, and, you know, they wouldn't have done it, they probably would have done it 5 years later, if they would have done it at all, type of thing, right? So, like, if you look at the grand scheme of things, it ended up being, you know, probably a much more cost-effective than any other option. Not saying that that's what would work in Hillsboro, obviously, but,
And I'm not saying where we do, I'm just saying you know, if we're gonna fix the sewer lines, are we just fixing the ones that we have to, and are we leaving that we're probably not gonna fix, and we're gonna have to deal with it down the road of tearing them up when they fail?
yeah.
Not 3 of, you know, this section or this section either. We're gonna do it all and fix it so that it's completely fixed, or is it
Yeah.
do the middle of the road of, you know, do priority 1 and 2 and leave 3, 4, and 5.
Yeah, and I think the way that you almost look at it then, if we look at this one right here, the 3 methods, you know, if I'm looking at it as a smallest project, maybe you do the red areas and you only fix the trench width above that, you know, so the rest of the road section stays. Your middle of the ground area would be, okay, we're already in that area, so then we'll do the water in that area as well. And then your main project would be you know, the water, the sewer, and then pavement, curb to curb. You know, that's another way of kind of looking at it, as kind of a incrementally more expensive, but probably a better finished product.
And I'm guessing we're gonna have to have a contingency set aside, because guaranteed when you pull down on a couple of them, they'll be like, oh, we're gonna have to do this one too, because we just found this error over here that we need to do.
Yeah, well, the hardest part is, you'll be surprised how many houses from a block over are actually tied into the sanitary sewer, you know?
Yeah.
A block in a different direction, so.
The chances of that was great, you know, since we cambered everything, we're gonna have a better idea.
You'd think, you think. That's
Well,
not
we
always.
do the camera,
Well, the camera just shows you that there's a stub coming that way. It's not telling you that it's a house that snakes through somebody else's property that's actually fed into that sanitary sewer.
So do you guys want to, I assume, digest this a little bit and come back and come up with a plan of attack? Or is there any task orders that you'd like for them to put together to, you know, do we want to move forward to the next step of getting this all put together? Not saying that we say how much it is, but do we want them to go back and get a task order put together to say, you know, what's our next step and how much it's going to cost? Because there's going to be a next step before we even get to the project itself.
We have a gentleman in the room that's going to make the public known about this, so I would like to take some time, because I'm sure that once that person writes about it, we'll probably have people coming and asking. So,
I'm writing about Hillsboro days.
at least you got your priorities.
When they come back and ask us, why didn't you tell us? I guess we can blame you because you only put a little blurb then.
What do you mean, Cole didn't write that in the paper?
So is there a big food headline?
Yeah, that's kind of thing. I keep reminding Jay about is, our 150 years of Hillsboro will be in 31 or 31, I think. So we don't want the streets tore up in 2031.
Well, you want them done by then.
Right, exactly. That's
That's
so.
the same case in Larimore. Did they have a new going on? You had to get ready for it?
Right.
Or couldn't tear a road up?
Yeah.
The other thing
And
I want,
it might be fun, but I do firmly, I think that we have to, if we're gonna do something, we need to seriously look at that, because, you know, I would hope, you know, we might not be around, but I would hope that the next commissioners would have that, be able to have a nice celebration, all school reunions, so on and so forth, whether it'll happen, you know. It's a lot easier to show it off and everything looks nice.
but keep in mind that August, you know, we probably want something in August timeline because I assume the task order probably won't start until January or, you know, we'd want to put it into next year's budget. So keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, and you guys let us know, like, when, you know, when you want to start bringing this to, you know, whether it's public meetings, whether you want us to start kind of diving into some of the funding possibilities. I know the State Water Commission, you know, they didn't have much money, and that it's already closed. You know, we would need to get on the state water plan, you know, so, and that would be for the, I think that would be for the 29-31 biennium. I know that there are some planning grants available, like USDA has one. That could be something where we could apply for a planning grant to see if they even would help fund, you know, like a facility plan to just kind of, you know, collect all this information and put together a document that can be used for both SRF and USDA dollars. But yeah, definitely the legislators, that's where you guys come in, you know, reaching out to them and seeing what can be done and who can help.
For the next biennium, we may not see as much.
Yeah.
I would say that we want to get started, but letting the public know by sometime in 2027, that either 2028 or 2029 to do this project. So otherwise, we're going to be, like Paul saying, we're going to be bumping up against the 150th celebration. And I guess I drive around town. I mean, I'm not an engineer like you guys are, and I've seen incredible changes for the worse over the last 2 years on a lot of the streets that I drive on and walk on.
Well, and when we drove through, you know, it was obviously raining, but the amount of ponding water that happens just because, you know, there's just been settlement and everything like that all accelerates the deterioration.
When it's not draining out, that's where, and it's not going to get any better. It's making it worse.
Yeah. Yeah, when we were, you know, a realistic schedule, if you want to look at it this way, is to just kind of digest it throughout kind of this year, have your public meetings, you know, whatever, throughout this year, through the spring. 27, you know, kind of, if you're ready, if the public's on board, you know, once you hear some feedback, to survey some of the areas, you know, that we think we do, and, you know, and then you're probably doing your design kind of 27 into 28. So the earliest you'd even think about construction would be 28 anyway. And then, you know, I think the nice thing with that is once you have a design, then you've got a plan set that doesn't matter when, you know, if you don't like the bids one year, you just don't award it, you know, but you can bid it the next year. If you don't have as many grants as you, similar to Laramore's situation, you can keep applying, because now you've got a document that you can show people and say, hey, we're ready, we just need a little bit of extra help.
And that helps when we come to the grants as well, when we can pull it off the shelf and be ready to go. Any other questions for these guys? Thank you, three. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, if you guys think about it for a couple months and then find out if what we need to help get into next year's budget. Isn't it 2 months? October is 2 months away?
Something like that.
Look at out there right now, it's cold.
Well, if it quit raining, you want to see if any of the water went down.
Go ice skating, huh?
There you go.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Anything else for us?
Anything for them? Okay.
Okay.
Quick, before I change my mind.
All right, Casey, we'll go with you next.
Oh, for city officers?
Your city report, yeah.
It is audit season. We're hitting it hard this week. Budget season is also upon us. If there are any expenses out of the ordinary that the commission or employees would like to budget for, please get quotes. I'm not guessing this year. Other than that, to go along with budget, I would like the commission to have a meeting sometime in July to discuss salaries and possible raises. If you guys could send me your availability for maybe the second and fourth weeks in July, that would be great. And then we'll pick a date off of there. Other than that, the trees are in for the tree grant. I think that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. JR?
Nothing from me as the attorney, but as the chair of the lodging tax, we did receive a request to sponsor the Hillsboro Fly-In. Request was $1,600. I did send an email today because I just got back. The lodging tax has preliminarily approved it. We seek confirmation from the city to spend the full $1,600.
I move to approve the $1,600.
Paul makes a motion to move, but a second? Second. Seconded by Jason. Any other discussion? John?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Nicole?
I should really stay on that. I'm on the caffeine committee.
It's okay.
Anyways.
Yes.
Are you benefiting from it?
Huh?
Getting a free meal or something? Are you getting a free meal or something? Are you benefit from it?
Or a ride, or
Right?
anything?
Free plane ride? Are you getting a free plane ride?
Heck, I might at this point.
How's
Okay.
the dog doing?
We're doing great. Yeah.
Doing good.
Yeah.
Trying to claw the door
I'm
down?
making alerts pretty shortly though, so.
Okay. You guys have anything besides what's on the agenda? Okay. Nicole, do you have anything tonight?
I don't have anything tonight.
Jason, do you have anything tonight?
Just three quick things. Fire hall, I did do a tour last fire meeting, and I do recommend if you do have a chance to go talk to them and schedule something. They're coming along. Cemetery, they got the trees cut down that have been in limbo. Last day
taken care of. And then on the sheriff's office side, we did pick up the K-9 on Friday, so we'll be seeing that around and about, but he will not be leaving for training until August 10th, so he will not be working, but it will be around.
Which deputy is gonna have the king?
Kobe Bozer out of Maple.
Name?
Not yet.
Fred,
Chucky.
Fred. Okay, I guess not.
Fred.
John?
Anything?
Paul?
Just a couple quick things too. On the beautification side, if you notice, we did get the fence posts in, and I thank Angel and Greggy from the city. They came and helped. It made life real easy for me, them there helping, and they actually not only helped with the cement, but they actually helped backfill with the rock and everything, so I thank them. And they were great to work with, helping with that. And as you can see, Levi put a few boards in, so you kind of get an idea what it's going to look like. Beautification, also we talked about, I'm going to be looking at the banners, the street lights. So if anybody out there has any input or, or something they may like or whatever it might be, please reach out to me so we can get some banners. Of course, Hillsboro Days this weekend. I hope everybody can stay in town and attend as many events as possible. People that put these events on, they put a lot of time into it, so they appreciate when people hang around and stick around for those things. So pass the word, spread the word that to hit as many of those events as they can, and thank those people that are putting it on, because none of them get paid to do it. So it's just a good thing for the community. So be sure to partake in the festivities. Hopefully we'll have good weather. And Jay said he's got everything under control. No problem.
But I'm aware of everything.
So if the weather cooperates, so he doesn't have to sweep water.
Let's hope for no bad weather.
No bad weather, let's hope, yes. That's all I have.
Thank you. Jay talked about the pool. The ladies and the rest of the staff have been out cleaning, getting the rest of it ready to go, so that when it does open up, or when they're able to, it will be ready to go, hopefully, like you said, first part of July. They've been doing some painting and some other areas inside, crack filling, those types of things, trying to, some of the things that we maybe didn't get done before because we're hurrying up trying to get the pool open. I did look for cost of what it would do to replace all of our street signs in, so I'd want to know if you guys would like that in the next budget season. About $110,000 for just the signs. That does not include putting them in, but Jay said that they should be able to do that. We just have to buy a postponder, and then it'd be new sleeves. So it'd be all new posts. We take out everything that we have currently and put new posts in, and put the stop signs and the street signs on the same post. So, is that something you guys want to put into next year's budget?
Did the plane go?
And that's replaced the Jay had a list of some that we could do and couldn't do, and so we just put a list together of everything, so.
The painted and the misty are outweighing the,
Yep.
the little bit.
And that's a double-sided, so it'd be the crosshatch like this, not the one on each side.
Is it folks like these would galvanize?
Yep. Yep. So, this is the one quote that we got, so 103, but we're missing a few, so we're guessing it's gonna be about 110. Think about that, and so that we know if,
They're standard size, those street signs?
yep, everything was standard size, same letters.
I think it says it a lot.
Yeah.
Right there.
And that's putting one on either corner, so either intersection, both intersections would have one on either side. So.
I think we should budget. If you need a motion, I can move.
No, don't need a motion, I just need to know if that's what you wanted budget tell Casey to work in the budget, so.
You want to work in the money?
That's a question for you guys to answer and tell me what you want.
So I think that's quite a expense to add and do all at once. You have one favor of doing it little by little.
And that's fine, that's why we got a quote to see. And some of those are, we could take some of the, we looked at replacing some of the lighted stop signs, so those are higher expense. And I think there was a couple of speed signs that we've suggested putting in, like on Post Road and some of those areas to help mitigate. So, there's some areas to bring costs down. But we gave you the most to start with, so. But we did reach out to another company too, so see what their bid is too. But this at least gives us a starting point to figure it out, so. Okay, I think that is it. The MRES S1 agreement and documents, I don't think we need to approve anything tonight. JR needs to look through those, but, what was it, Joe, August 1? Is that the time?
They eventually need everything by November. I did review it today.
Okay.
But if you read, there's a memo that summarizes the changes, which is saving the headache of reading the full agreement. It summarizes basically just extending it for 10 years and some slight terminology changes.
Nothing, no changes that are anything drastic.
Nope.
So you guys can look through it, and we'll have it on the next agenda for the reading of the ordinance and what we need to do.
It should just be a resolution.
It's a resolution.
Yep.
For some reason, I thought it was. And then I forgot to tell you guys, Lowry and his team plans to be at the July meeting, so not this meeting. Next one, I need a motion to approve the bond of our city auditor. This is the bond that we have every 2 years that we need to reapply, so I have a motion to approve that.
Make the motion.
Nicole makes a motion, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by John, any other discussion? Paul?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Any yes for me? Motion carries. Next, we have the bond of the municipal officers and employees, so the president of the commission, deputy city auditor, and city assessor.
Every 2 years.
Correct. Do I have a motion to approve those? Jason makes a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Nicole. Any other discussion? Nicole?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And a yes for me. Motion carries. Next, we have Jay was asking for additional help this summer. You want to talk a little bit more about that?
I was just, as we've got the summer rolling on, everyone's kind of just filling in their roles. And I'm visiting with the Katie and Randy, and we both want to tackle a little more. At this point, I wouldn't do it unless I had a little more help. Myself too, if I could get a little more help, I can get a little more in the office, which I'm not spending any time in there right now. I just think a little help extra just to get to that point. I'm really happy with the guys that are in the position for taking on so much. A little extra help would go a long way at this point.
Thoughts? Questions?
No, we talked a little bit, and the problem with the budget and summer help is we really just don't have a solid game plan ever, so I don't know what to budget, so we just base it off of previous years. The only place that it would be budgeted would be because of that extra full-time employee that we were looking to have hired. So we budgeted for 8 full-timers. You guys have 7 full-timers at Public Health, or Public Works. So, not directly in the right line item, but it's there. So, just going forward, I think we should have a more solid game plan for summer helpers, but
What's that you thought? What was that slated for?
water department.
We were gonna hire the water, we were trying to find somebody to replace Zach, and we did.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kelby moved from part-time to full-time, so that kind of. So
I'm
it's,
curious that, I thought we approved Kelby moving into the one spot.
so it's probably not really a full-time position, it's a part-time position that's still left.
I budgeted for 8 full-time.
Oh, you did, okay.
Yep.
So that's what you had budgeted, but.
Yep, because initially, we were supposed to have 3 at Public Works underneath Jay, 1 underneath Roy, and 1 underneath, or actually 1 above Zach, initially, when we put together the budget. Because there were discussion of you being more of a supportive role rather than a supervisory role. And that didn't happen because the only applicant that was interested in the position that was presented to the commission lived outside the 30-minute window. So that's why nothing's changed, with the exception of Greggy moving up into the water, more of a water focus now.
On a good note, we did get 1 applicant today, you said,
Yep, so
and
there,
possibly 1 more.
there was, yep, so there was somebody who Jay has talked to, that brought in the application. This afternoon, though, we did have somebody have interest in a summer position, so.
I guess this third guy I want to kind of bounce around, make sure that the mastic and the tarring can keep moving.
How many people you have on mastic right now, 2 or 3?
3 right now. I'm trying to be the 4th to help out, but I keep getting pulled away. I can't do my diligence to pull away. It's ideal to have 4.
You do need 4 for them?
They suggest 6, but we found that 4 ideal. And with the 2 summer help already, we can balance 4 on there. Not pulling them from far in at the same time. I'd like to do math with at least twice a week. And then pick up our other chores that we have in the future.
Would you guys like to make a motion to do so, or not? Anybody like to entertain a motion?
I'll move that we have that funds available from that half-time or full-time, whatever it is, employee for the 3 months or whatever time. Because I really want that mastic going. I know the weather doesn't help, but man, we need to keep that moving, and we need to move on that as fast as we can. So if that'll help with that, I'd move that we do hire another summer employee to help with that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Jason. Is there any other discussion? Paul, we gotta work on your motion skills, 'cause that's a very long-winded motion.
3/4, so Abby, it's a quick typer.
Okay. Any other discussion? Paul?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Nicole?
Yes.
Yes, for me. Motion carries. Next, we have a street closure for the 5K. Similar route to what it was before. We have a motion to approve that.
Motion to approve the 5K route.
John makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Nicole. Any other discussion? Paul?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Nicole? John?
Yes.
And a yes for me. The remote controlled mower discussion. Casey did get a couple responses back on them, so but Jay's here tonight too to help talk a little bit more about that. So
Yep, the responses that I got were from Park River and Valley City. Park River basically said they don't have a mower like that, but they have used WSI to get a safer mower, not a remote control one, but they've used it. Valley City was the other respondent. They said that they have a remote control mower. They really enjoy it. They didn't use WSI for it, but they said it works well for them. And those are the only two responses that I've gotten.
Same similar more, or just one like it?
For Valley City.
Yeah.
they didn't say, I don't think, when I looked at it.
That's good. I just thought if they had a similar one that we were getting, it would be good to know how, if they're having any problems.
It says,
Foremost, I wanted it for safety. The other thing is we can use it for cleaning up all the ditches with cattails. Be able to get in on what cattails are on.
That's probably what sold me on a more anything is, because we've been talking about cattails for how long? And if this can potentially help with that, obviously they can't probably go in the water.
here's,
Surprising how much they will.
They do, huh?
You should watch some of the videos. It's pretty.
Is it?
here, here's what Valley City said. We have a similar mower, an RC mower, remote controlled track slope mower. They bought theirs from Brian at Sanitation Products, not with grants or anything. They have no major issues with the machine at all. They would recommend having a dedicated trailer for the machine. Our machine has rough cut and finished blades. We just run the finished blades most of the time, as areas we mow are fairly visible to the public. Make sure to keep the fuel above a quarter tank or it could kill the machine while on an incline. The different company or model could work differently. Highly recommended. Highly recommend a remote slope mower. We mow areas we could never mow before with zero safety concerns for employees. So,
And our cost was how much? 2,500.
Yep. For the higher priced one, which is a flail mower on the front instead of a blade underneath, which I think should work better on the cattails.
Well, one.
If we're gonna go get cattails and stuff,
I don't even know that we would see it this year. I mean, it might be next year.
you know, we've had since I've been here 5 ugly incidents with that. Should have got out of town really bad.
It's heavy. It's heavy.
So do we have a motion to go for the WSI grant for this?
So moved.
Paul makes a motion. Is there a second?
Oh, second it.
Seconded by John. Any other discussion?
Be contingent on the grant, correct?
Correct. And if we don't, we can always look at putting it in the budget for next year. Nicole?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And a yes for me. Motion carries. Has everybody had a chance to look at the food truck application? And I don't believe we've heard back from Paul on it.
not from Paul. Tara emailed back and she said she really liked it. Haven't heard back from Paul though.
I had just 2 questions myself. It says projected opening date, and I'm not sure what that would be for.
For when they'd like to do business in Hillsboro.
Just a wording that.
Would
So
it be
just word it.
projected operating date or
Do that.
present? Or look at opening a little differently. And then the second question is can we make this available?
I'm sure there's a way to do it, I've never done it.
I can do it.
Okay.
Okay, everybody okay with it? All right. Reminder, AMP for the old budget pay are due back to City Hall by June 20th. Fireworks can be used from June 27th to July 5th. Hillsboro Days is this week. Offices are closed on Friday. It is a holiday per the handbook. And then the next day that the office will be closed is the 3rd, because July 4th is on a Saturday. And our next meeting is July 6th at 6:30 with the reorganization meeting to start, and then after that would be a regular commission meeting. Does anybody else have anything for the good of the order?
Make the motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second? Second?
Okay.
All in favor? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?